Chapter 16:14. Found it. Watch me. Without hesitation, Caprice took out an eye of space and used it to break through the void. One had to know that the interior of the city was more stable. It wasn't easy to tear through space. However, Headstrong's eye of space wasn't low. He didn't care about the array of a small city. When they passed through the gate, they sensed the aura of an 8th stage Undying Soul Realm expert. Dekai. Rogue immortals were powerful. Even if a Heaven Ascension Realm expert tore through space, it was impossible to find Dekai. After all, Dekai had been gone for 3 days. Who is it? Dekai's reaction was quite fast, and he immediately shouted loudly. A weakling. I'm too lazy to attack. You go. Headstrong didn't have any intention to attack. He took out a fan and sat cross-legged in the air. Even if a 9th stage Heaven Ascension Realm expert couldn't enter his eyes, it was too degrading for him to deal with an 8th stage Undying Soul Realm expert. I'm also too lazy to attack. Ribs, you guys go. Yixian showed a tired look and summoned Old Tree's trio. Old Tree's trio were all 6th stage Undying Soul Realm experts. Killing Dekai wasn't a problem. Run! When Dekai saw Headstrong, he immediately thought of retreating. Although he had killed a 9th stage Undying Soul Realm expert before, his 10,000 years of experience made him understand that Headstrong wasn't an ordinary person. Just the method of breaking through space wasn't something that an ordinary person could do. He didn't have confidence in this battle, so he could only run. Want to leave? Have you asked this old man? Old Tree took the lead and rushed over, intercepting Dekai. A mere 6th stage Undying Soul Realm expert dares to wander in front of me? Dekai was furious. He was afraid of Headstrong, not Yixian's trio. However, he was wrong. Old Tree alone could fight him, not to mention Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian. Roar! When Dekai realized that something was wrong, he transformed into his deathly demon dragon form and fled frantically. Unfortunately, he could not escape from the grasp of the Old Tree trio. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. A system notification sounded out as the death demon dragon Dekai fell at the hands of the Old Tree trio, and its soul was harvested by Yixian. Ding! Host has completed the 3rd round of the Dragon Slayer title mission. It's already the 3rd round. I wonder how long it'll take to complete it. Yixian was slightly helpless. However, with his current realm, there was one thing he could accomplish, and that was the upper limit of his killing intent value. Now that he had 7 devour points, he would be able to fuse 2 combat bloodlines with 2 more points. So he wanted to take advantage of the fact that he was still at the 4th stage of the Undying Soul Realm, to kill his way into the enemy's hinterland. At this time, the pair of Eyes of Death also turned into 2 strands of Will of Death. This time Yixian quickly absorbed the 2 strands of Will of Death. If his Eyes of Death improved, the Ghost Dome Great Emperor's Will of Death would also improve. His Eyes of Death would also become more powerful. Wayward, how far is your spacebreaker? Yixian could not help but ask. If you don't have a positioning system, the 3-day journey with the help of the Eye of Space is already difficult enough. Where do you want to go? Wayward answered. After all, he was only in the undead realm now. I got a strategic map earlier and I'm going to explore it, Yixian said. Is that so? But it could be fake. If you use the spacebreaker, you might fall into the enemy's space-locking formation. However, it won't be a problem if I bring you along. After Wayward finished speaking, he took out the Eye of Space again and broke through the void. Although he was not in the Ascension realm, he used the Eye of Space to cross the 3-day distance and enter the enemy's territory. Yixian took out the map and looked at it to understand where he was. Northwest. There's a group of demons moving northeast, Wayward said. Okay. Yixian's eyes lit up, and he immediately headed northwest. He had actually completed the mission this time, but because of Wayward's pride, he did not plan to take action. From the aura of the demons he found this time, he could tell that they were all from the Giant Dragon clan. Now that the entire Giant Dragon clan had betrayed the Bloodfiend Holy Land, it was normal to kill them on sight. Kid, let's start the slaughter, Wayward said to Yixian. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yixian opened his eyes wide. In the Eye of Revelation, he saw thousands of giant dragons migrating past. What Kuboan had found before was the map of the Giant Dragon clan's distribution. Once this map was spread out, experts would immediately descend to exterminate them, so they had no choice but to migrate. This giant dragon clan was not weak. The 3 leading giant dragons were all in the undead realm, and they had many experts under their command. With so many killing intent points, Yi Xian's eyes turned red. Go! Yi Xian did not hesitate. He directly used the Death Hunt command to mark one of the giant dragons, and then flashed over. Slaughter feast, begin. This place was immediately set off a storm of blood. Although Yi Xian had just passed the platinum trial and used his undead war soul and other skills, Yi Xian still had slaughter feast, which was enough. As Yi Xian and the others charged in, this giant dragon clan suffered heavy losses. Countless giant dragon corpses fell from the sky. In the blink of an eye, the slaughter feast's buff increased by several times. At the same time, the commotion inside made the entire giant dragon clan stop. What's going on? The 3 leading giant dragons frowned when they saw that the middle of the giant dragon clan was fighting. Someone broke through the sky and came to kill our clansmen. A giant dragon who was in human form reported. Damn it, I don't know who leaked the clan's distribution and forced us to leave. We were even hunted down several times along the way. The leader of this giant dragon clan shouted angrily. They had been hunted down several times before, but their realms were not high. However, this time they were facing the god of slaughter, Yi Xian. 50%, 80% doubled. In less than 3 seconds, Yi Xian's buff doubled and it was still rising rapidly. Originally, the leader of this giant dragon clan thought that Yi Xian and the others would be dealt with by the clan's experts. However, after 3 seconds, Yi Xian and the others were still alive and kicking. He knew that he had to personally take action. Courting death. The leader of this giant dragon clan roared and directly rushed towards Ghost Dome Great Emperor. Undead Soul Stage 8 and Undead Soul Stage 6. It was only a difference of 2 realms. Ghost Dome Great Emperor was confident that he could kill the other party within 3 rounds. Chapter 16:15. The Patriarch of the Giant Dragons roared and approached Ghost Dome Great Emperor. He grabbed with his dragon claw, preparing to crush Ghost Dome Great Emperor. But at this moment, Ghost Dome Great Emperor suddenly slashed with all his might and chopped off the giant dragon claw. Not only that, but the sword chi also chopped off half of the dragon patriarch's neck. As expected, he was almost killed in an instant. However, this was not the end. Wei Zhentian directly transformed into a giant sword and slashed down like Pangu, splitting the heavens and earth. Rip! In an instant, the dragon's head was chopped off, but the patriarch with an undying soul realm was still alive. Leave it to me. Not far away, Old Tree continuously flashed over and threw a few punches at the dragon's head, directly breaking a large hole in the back of its head. After a few punches, Yi Xian heard a system notification sound. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. An expert with an undying soul realm had fallen. As for his soul, Yi Xian naturally would not let it go. He quickly finished it off and increased the buff once again. Even the patriarch was killed. This group of giant dragons with raging battle intent instantly felt like a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. They hugged their heads and fled. There were close to 10,000 giant dragons. If they wanted to escape, Yi Xian would not be able to intercept them all. Hence, he could only choose to kill those with higher realms. In the distance, Wayward was already lying in the air. He supported his head with one hand and fanned himself with the other. He seemed to be very satisfied. This kid is very fierce when he kills. If he is allowed to grow to the 9th stage of the Heaven Ascension realm, I reckon that he can even beat up undying immortals. Wayward nodded in satisfaction. He was secretly praising himself for having a good eye. However, at this moment, a white light suddenly rose from the horizon. Following that, a powerful aura spread out. Wayward raised his eyebrows. His soul and spiritual sense were at the level of an undying immortal. His senses were much stronger than Yi Xian's. He just happened to feel that powerful aura. This is, the Demon Emperor's inheritance has found an inheritor? Wayward was shocked. Before he came to the Penglai sacred land, he naturally heard about the fall of the Penglai Demon Emperor. Who would have thought that someone would inherit the position of Demon Emperor today? What a coincidence. However, Yi Xian was in the midst of his frenzied slaughter and did not notice the pillar of light that shot into the sky, nor did he sense its aura. Yi Xian and the others quickly annihilated this group of giant dragons. All the wandering souls were also obliterated. As for the giant dragons that had fled, their realms were also very low. This battle was more than enough. Yi Xian estimated that it would take a few more attempts before he could reach the maximum killing intent value. There's also a group of demons moving in the north. Do you want to go? Caprice suddenly said to Yi Xian. Of course. Yi Xian nodded in response. However, he couldn't even use Slaughtering Feast right now. It would take a while before he could use it again, so he could only fight normally. It didn't matter whether he had Slaughtering Feast, Undying War Soul and other skills. Anyway, with his strength, it was almost impossible for anyone below the Ascension realm to kill him. At that moment, Caprice directly broke open the void, and Yi Xian and the others rushed in, intercepting another group of giant dragons. Although the duration of Slaughtering Feast had passed, Yi Xian continued to fight. Although he couldn't kill all the giant dragons, it didn't matter. After all, giant dragons were lustful. Their reproductive ability was ranked first among the demons. Moreover, these giant dragons were not even at the Ascension realm, but there were hundreds of millions of them. After a few rounds of torment, Yi Xian finally reached the maximum killing intent value again. Ding! The host's killing intent value has reached the maximum limit. Would you like to exchange it for devouring points? Yes. Ding! The host has obtained 1 devouring point. Now Yi Xian had 8 devouring points. With 1 more point he could fuse 2 battle bloodlines. Caprice again. Just as Yi Xian was about to let Caprice continue searching with his soul sense, an old voice suddenly rang in Yi Xian and Caprice's ears. You two, are you doing a mission outside? This voice belonged to the Knight Captain Molly. The Knight Captain had the Platinum Badge, which could be obtained from the knights under his command. He could even directly locate the location of the knight and then fly over. Knight Captain, we're doing a mission outside. Yi Xian transmitted back using the Platinum Badge. Something happened just now. I reckon that a large number of experts from the evil Holy Lands will soon enter our territory. You must be careful. Molly reminded. Something happened? Yi Xian didn't quite understand the situation. However, Caprice instantly understood. He transmitted back, reassuring Molly. Caprice was a gold knight, which meant that he had killed a Ascension Realm LV4 Ascension Realm beast. He was invincible in this area, so Molly was relieved. If there's any danger, inform me immediately. Also, come back a little. I can't help if you're too far away. Molly reminded. After all, Yi Xian was a Platinum Knight. He was the seed with the most potential for the Glazed Knights. Although the soul seed could be resurrected, it would take time. Geniuses had to erupt when they were young. Once they fell silent, they might not be able to recover. Okay. Yi Xian and Caprice looked at each other, then responded. When you were fighting just now, I felt a powerful aura. It came from the direction of the Penglai demons, said Caprice. The Penglai demons? What happened? Asked Yi Xian, frowning. Someone obtained the Penglai demon emperor's inheritance, so the Blood Evil Holy Land, Sheung Holy Land, and Shurgu Holy Land will send experts to investigate and see who obtained the inheritance, explained Caprice. Yi Xian was surprised. What does that have to do with us? Isn't this place very far from the Penglai demons? When experts come in, those with lower realms will follow and take the opportunity to do whatever they want. There aren't many Ascension Realm cultivators in this area now. Soon there will be LV2 or LV3 Ascension Realm experts. Willful paused for a moment and said, Of course, the main battlefield is still the Penglai goblins. Only half of the goblins only have half of the goblins. Now that someone has obtained half of it, the other half will probably appear soon. Why is there only half? Asked Yi Xian, raising his eyebrows. You really don't know anything. Let me tell you. Willful continued to fan himself and explained. The Penglai Sacred Land used to have a sacred landmaster, which was the demon emperor of the Penglai demon tribe, the Dragon Sparrow Fairy. Later, the Dragon Sparrow Fairy knew that she couldn't pass the immortal tribulation, so she left half of her heritage in the Penglai demon tribe, and then another half in the land of the fallen. Chapter 16:16. There were too many people, so she chose to hide. At first, everyone thought she was in seclusion, but later they found out she had died. The half of the inheritance she left in Penglai can guide the other half so that later generations can obtain it, Headstrong continued to explain. Yixian finally understood. So you're saying that the other 3 holy lands are here for the demonic emperor's inheritance? Of course not. The demonic emperor's inheritance is only one of them. The most important thing is the holy leader token. Headstrong shook his head. Only the master of a holy land can have the holy leader token. As long as you refine the holy leader token, you can become the master of Penglai. I said before that loose immortals can't fight in Penglai. Do you know why? I don't know. Is there some kind of agreement? Yixian guessed. Yes, it can be considered a tacit agreement. However, the real reason is because the space in the Penglai Holy Land is unstable. If a Heaven Ascension expert were to tear open space, they would be able to repair it. However, if a loose immortal expert were to take action, the torn space would not be repaired. Moreover, the space cracks can continue to expand. In the end, they can even swallow the entire Holy Land and affect other Holy Lands. So loose immortals are not allowed to fight in small Holy Lands. If they break the rules, they will be punished by the Heavenly Tao. The light ones will be severely injured, and the heavy ones will be directly killed, Headstrong explained. So you're saying that we can fight in the big Holy Lands? Yixian asked. There are 4 big Holy Lands. The Life Holy Land, the Buddhist Holy Land, the Holy Emperor of Death, and the Underworld Holy Land. The space in these 4 Holy Lands is very stable. When Ascension Realm fighters tear space, the space cracks will be repaired instantly. When loose immortals fight, the space cracks will be repaired more slowly. After Headstrong finished speaking, he changed the topic. However, with the Holy Leader token, you can wantonly fight in your own territory. Others can't. So that's how it is. Then the Holy Leader token is very popular. If a loose immortal obtains the Holy Leader token, he will be invincible in his own holy land. Yixian finally understood. The 3 evil holy lands had entered Penglai to fight for the position of Holy Land Master. Loose immortals from outside couldn't attack, but loose immortals with Holy Master tokens could. Wasn't this invincible? By the way, the Penglai Sacred Land has 6 major powers. Aside from the 3 evil sacred lands and the Penglai Demon Tribe, there are also the Glazed Knights in Tianjua Palace. Are they also competing for the Sacred Leader token? Yixian suddenly asked. The Glazed Knights, the Penglai Goblin Clan, and the Heavenju Palace. Although the 3 great powers are united against the 3 great evil holy lands, only the Penglai Goblin Clan and the Heavenju Palace are together. Although the Glazed Girl's background is not small, she also wants to fight for the Holy Master token. Headstrong said. Yixian narrowed his eyes and said, What about Tianju Gong? Tianju Palace, this name was very similar to a person he knew, and that was old immortal Tianju. Yixian reckoned that there should be something between the two. Tianju Palace's Tianju Old Immortal is the husband of the Penglai demon race's demon emperor, Dragon Sparrow Fairy, so he naturally has to help the Penglai demon race. Capricious said. Old immortal Tianju? Hearing this, Yixian's heart twitched fiercely. Although he had guessed before, when these 4 words came out from Capricious' mouth, he was still shocked. He did not expect that the old immortal Tianju, hidden in the eastern continent, was actually a loose immortal. At first, Yixian thought that old immortal Tianju was just a manifestation realm expert. He did not expect his realm to be so high. Why would such a strong person protect the goblin clan of the Great Wilderness in the Blood Rock continent? Old immortal Tianju is the lord of the glazed light sacred ground. However, loose immortals are not allowed to participate in the fight for the Penglai sacred ground this time. Capricious said again. Glazed light sacred ground? Yixian was shocked again. He did not expect that old immortal Tianju was the lord of the glazed light sacred ground and had such a strong background. Old immortal Tianju had the Holy Master token of the glazed light sacred ground. As long as he was in the glazed light sacred ground, he was an invincible existence. How terrifying. What do we do now? Yixian suddenly turned his head and asked. Your realm is too low now, it's better to increase your strength first. Don't worry, with me protecting you, you can go anywhere you want, Capricious said confidently. If that's the case, then I'll directly charge into the enemy's territory. Yixian suddenly smiled evilly. He had already obtained 8 Devour points. With 1 more point he could fuse the 2 battle bloodlines. His plan was to reach the upper limit of 2 killing intent points when his soul was at Undying Stage 4. When the 2 battle bloodlines fused, he would then devour the treasure stored in the Devour space and directly break through. There's one thing I don't understand. You've already reached Undying Stage 4. From the looks of it, you should be able to directly break through to Undying Stage 5. Why are you still stuck? At this time Capricious suddenly asked. Hearing this, Yixian was a little shocked and hurriedly said, I want to complete a special mission. If I don't break through, it'll be easier to complete it. Capricious looked at Yixian skeptically and did not ask further. After all, everyone had their own secrets. Since that's the case, I'll bring you directly to kill. Let's go. Capricious directly waved his hand and used the Eye of Space in his hand to break through the void again, directly crossing a large distance. Following that, he spread out his spiritual sense to search and pointed to the northwest direction. There's another deathly demon dragon there, but it's at the peak of Undying Stage 9. At this time it had already been about 8 months since the Platinum assessment. Killing Feast, Undying Battle Soul and other skills could all be used, so Yixian was not afraid. Seeing Yixian nodding, Capricious broke through the void again. After Yixian passed through, he saw a youth in a black robe. Who's there? The black-robed youth immediately reacted and suddenly turned around. He saw Yixian and Capricious coming out of the crack in the void. Ding! The host has triggered the 4th round of the Dragon Slayer title mission. Kill the deathly demon dragon D-Lai in front of you. A system notification sounded. Finally, the 4th round of the mission appeared. This D-Lai was also ranked on the Dragon Demon rankings and his ranking wasn't low, reaching the 85th place. On the Dragon Demon rankings there were many Heaven Ascension Realm experts. The number 1 on the Dragon Demon rankings was at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. But this Dragon Demon rankings wasn't ranked according to strength. Those who were on the rankings were all outstanding people of the same level. However, to Yixian it didn't matter who it was. Without waiting for D-Lai to speak again, Yixian got Old Tree and the other 2 to kill directly. The peak of Undying Stage 9 was the strongest enemy he had encountered so far. Hence, he directly got Ghost Dome Great Emperor to activate his Undying Battle Soul. He couldn't be bothered to join in this battle. He just watched quietly like this. Chapter 16-17. It was a pity that D-Lai's injuries couldn't be healed. After a while he was defeated. Ding! Host's killing intent has increased. The system notification sounded. D-Lai, who was at the 9th stage of the Undying Soul Realm, was killed. At the same time, Yixian completed the 4th part of the Dragon Slayer title mission. However, what surprised him was that after the 4th part of the mission, the 5th part of the mission appeared. Ding! Host has triggered the 5th part of the Dragon Slayer title mission. Kill the Death Demon Dragon Emperor Dtion. Reward? Dragon Slayer title. The 5th part was actually the last part. What realm is the Death Demon Dragon Emperor Dtion? Yixian didn't understand. This branch of the Dragon Emperor was probably not weak. Wasn't the difference in difficulty between 2 parts a bit too big? Fortunately, he had copied the list of missions in the Hall of Merit when he was accepting them. This Death Demon Dragon Emperor was also on the Dragon Demon list. That's strange. This Death Demon Dragon Emperor is only at the Heaven Ascension realm. Yixian felt that it was strange, so he asked Willful. The Death Demon Dragon bloodline of the Giant Dragons is a new bloodline that appeared after the Giant Dragons submitted to the Blood Fiend Holy Land. Although they were born with the Eye of Death, their cultivation is extremely difficult. Moreover, their lifespan is short, and it is extremely difficult for them to reproduce. Willful began to explain. After the Giant Dragons submitted to the Blood Fiend Holy Land, a bloodline called the Bloodthirsty Mad Dragon appeared. This bloodline is very powerful. The first on the Dragon Demon list, Shuechuanxiu, is a bloodthirsty mad dragon. He claims to be invincible under the loose immortal realm. Shuechuanxiu? After hearing this name, Yixian couldn't help but search for it. He found that this name was indeed in the mission list he had seen before. Shuechuanxiu, the strongest member of the bloodthirsty mad dragon bloodline, used bloodthirstiness to increase his cultivation. He was already at the peak of the 9th stage of the Heaven Ascension realm. He had once fought the glazed knight Lin Guangyao to a draw. However, This death demon dragon wasn't a bloodthirsty mad dragon. Yixian's target was the Death Demon Dragon Emperor. He searched the mission list he had copied before and found that the Death Demon Dragon Emperor had appeared most recently was half a month ago. This time this was troublesome. Looks like it won't be that easy to find the Death Demon Dragon Emperor. Since that's the case, I'll just have to look for the clan of Death Demon Dragons. Yixian took a closer look and discovered that there was information about the Death Fiend Dragons. This Death Demon Dragon clan was a clan that was attached to the Black Flame Dragon clan, under the Demonic Dragon Palace. This was because the Death Demon Dragons were a special breed of the Black Flame Dragon clan. The leader of the Death Devil Dragon clan was the Death Devil Dragon Emperor. He was at the first level of the Heavenly Completion realm, so Yixian was not afraid of him. However, there seemed to be a LV3 reaching Heaven State warrior in the Black Flame Dragon tribe, who was not someone Yixian could deal with. Heavenly Completion Stage 3? Leave those at that level to me. As for the Death Demon Dragon clan and the rest, I'll leave them to you, Headstrong said with a calm expression. Previously he was a loose immortal. Even if his cultivation level dropped, he was still not someone that ordinary people could fight with. At that moment he continuously used the space eye in his hand to break through the void. A trip through the void could shorten the journey by 3 days. However, every time he broke through the void, if there were any Heavenly Completion realm warriors nearby, they would notice the spatial fluctuations. However, the realms of the people in this area were generally low. Headstrong broke through the void several times, but did not encounter any Heavenly Completion realm warriors. At this time they had arrived near the Death Devil Dragon clan and the Black Flame Dragon clan. Do you still want to continue? I can take you directly to the Death Devil Dragon clan. Headstrong turned and asked, Is the Death Devil Dragon Emperor there? Yixian asked. There is a Heavenly Completion realm Death Devil Dragon, but I don't know if it is, Headstrong replied. Yixian paused. The Black Flame Dragon clan was nearby, so he planned in his heart. I want to kill both clans together, but there is a LV3 reaching Heaven State warrior in the Black Flame Dragon clan. As Yixian spoke, he turned to look at Headstrong. I can help you get rid of all the reaching Heaven State warriors. If you want, I can use my magical power to intimidate them. I can suppress at least 1 or 2 realms, Headstrong said with a faint smile. Suppress 1 or 2 realms? Yixian was shocked. Don't forget, I am a Platinum Holy Light Dragon. I have a strong deterrent effect on the Black Flame Dragon clan and the Death Devil Dragon clan. Even if I am only in the Undead realm now, I can break through to the Heavenly Completion realm at any time if I want to. It won't be a problem for me to kill 100,000 Death Devil Dragons with one move, Headstrong said with a cold snort, full of arrogance. However, he did have the right to be arrogant. After all, he used to be an itinerant immortal. Even if his realm fell, these people were still ants to him. Then help me suppress them all. I want to kill them myself. Yixian's eyes lit up. As long as he suppressed these people, he might be able to reach the upper limit of killing intent again. After all, there was a LV3 reaching Heaven State warrior in the Black Flame Dragon clan, while Yixian was only in the LV4 Undead Soul realm. There was a difference of 8 realms. Okay. Then I will let you see what I can do. After saying that, Headstrong's aura suddenly soared several times. This was not because he used a magical power but because he broke through. LV1 reaching Heaven State. He had maintained his Undead Soul realm in order to keep a low profile. If he wanted to, he could break through several times in a row. Watch carefully. After saying that, Headstrong waved his hand and opened a space crack. This time he did not use the Eye of Space. This time he went directly to the Black Flame Dragon clan. The Death Devil Dragon clan was in a corner of the Black Flame Dragon clan. It was not a big deal. After all, there was only one reaching Heaven State warrior in the Black Flame Dragon clan. If not for the fact that the Death Devil Dragon clan was a descendant of the Black Flame Dragon clan, it would have been driven out long ago. Headstrong and Yixian went through the space crack and arrived at the Black Flame Dragon clan. As the space rippled, some reaching Heaven State warriors noticed them immediately. What's going on? The space in the Black Flame Dragon clan is stable. How can someone break through space and come here? A LV1 reaching Heaven State warrior and a LV4 Undead Soul Realm warrior. Who is it? Impossible. How can a LV1 reaching heaven state warrior break through space and come here? Immediately, all the reaching heaven state warriors in the Black Flame Dragon clan rushed out. Their clan's formation was not bad. Even a LV4 reaching heaven state warrior would not be able to break through space and come here. However, Headstrong was only a LV1 reaching heaven state warrior, yet he had such strength. He was definitely not an ordinary person. In an instant, dozens of reaching heaven state warriors rushed out. At the same time, the reaching heaven state warrior in the Death Devil Dragon clan also noticed this and flew up to observe. Who are you? Chapter 16:18. The Glazed Knights. Capricious only gave a short reply before he immediately used his own means. He used his true chi to condense a white dragon phantom in his hand, then used the power of all things to enlarge it. When this white dragon soared into the sky, a wave of pressure fell on everyone. The experts of the Black Flame Dragon clan and the Deathly Demon Dragon clan all dropped by 2 realms. What is that? Everyone opened their eyes wide. At this moment, an extremely strong sense of fear rose in their hearts. This wasn't a realm suppression, but a bloodline suppression. Yixian couldn't help but look up. He found that the white dragon was a bit similar to Wayward's original form, but the Platinum Holy Light Dragon was much more handsome. This is the Celestial Gold White Dragon. My Platinum Holy Light Dragon was mutated from this. If I wasn't afraid of exposing my identity, I would have suppressed them myself. Wayward explained to Yixian. Yixian didn't care about anything else. He directly summoned Old Tree and the other 2. Fortunately, the Celestial Gold White Dragon's phantom suppressed the Deathly Demon Dragon clan and the Black Flame Dragon clan. Ghost Dome Great Emperor wasn't affected. Just now, Yixian felt a huge pressure coming from those Ascension Realm experts. But now he didn't feel any pressure at all. Kill the Deathly Demon Dragon Emperor first. Yixian directly ordered Old Tree to kill the Deathly Demon Dragon Emperor first. The Deathly Demon Dragon Emperor was originally a Ascension Realm expert. After being suppressed by the Celestial Gold White Dragon's phantom, it was only left with an Undying Soul Stage 7 realm. After all, the Deathly Demon Dragon Emperor was Yixian's target. That was why Wayward took special care of it. The Deathly Demon Dragon Emperor died very miserably. His head was smashed by Old Tree's fist. After dying, he returned to his original form. The will of death from the 2 eyes of death was also absorbed by Yixian's eyes of death. Even his soul was destroyed. Ding! The host has completed the Dragon Slayer title mission. The host has obtained the Dragon Slayer title. A system notification sounded. In an instant, Yixian's attributes skyrocketed by 30%. It was a pity that the full attribute bonus of this title had no effect on Old Tree and the other 2. However, it did cause damage to dragons. Might shakes the heavens, storm of swords go forth. Yixian's lips curled up slightly as he roared in his heart. This time he was going to annihilate the entire Black Flame Dragon tribe. Not only would he be able to increase his killing intent value and the buff of Soul's Elegy, but he would also be able to exchange the corpses of these dragons for merit points when he brought them back to the Glazed Knights. For the sake of convenience, Capricious couldn't help but help Yixian and gather all the people who were suppressed together. Sir, please spare my life. No, I don't want to die. We joined the Bloodfiend Holy Land because we were forced to. We had no other choice. The experts from the Black Flame Dragon tribe exclaimed. The strongest expert from the Black Flame Dragon tribe was only at Ascension Realm Stage 3. They had no say in the Dragon tribe. However, they could have chosen to stay in the Penglai Demon tribe. In the end, they left with the Dragon tribe, so they were enemies. The Black Flame Dragon tribe didn't have many members. There were only several tens of thousands of them here. Including the Deathly Demonic Dragon tribe, there were only about 60,000 of them. With Capricious suppressing them, Yixian was having a great time killing them. His killing intent value soared, and the buff of Soul's Elegy also increased rapidly. As for the Ascension Realm experts, they all died under the Storm of Swords. At this time, Yixian's killing feast had increased by 4 times, and was close to 5 times. This was the most satisfying killing he had ever done. However, this was due to Capricious. Otherwise, he would only be able to fight against the Deathly Demonic Dragon tribe, and not the Black Flame Dragon tribe. Soon, almost all the Black Flame Dragon tribe experts at Ascension Realm Stage 7 and above were dead. During this time, Yixian's killing intent value naturally reached the upper limit. 9 devour points. After such a long time, he finally had enough. At this time, Yixian consumed the 9 devour points and merged the Sword God bloodline and Slaying God bloodline. Ding! Merging the Sword God bloodline and Slaying God bloodline requires 9 devour points. Confirm? The system prompted. Hearing this, Yixian replied without thinking. Confirm. Ding! Bloodline merging. Ding! Bloodline merging progress is 10%. Ding! Bloodline merging progress is 20%. Ding! Bloodline merging progress is 80%. Ding! Bloodline merging progress is 90%. Soon, the bloodline merging progress was increased to 90%. Ding! Bloodline merging progress is 100%. Ding! Bloodline merging. Host has obtained the Immortal Slaying bloodline. Do you want to merge it immediately? Immortal Slaying bloodline? Hearing this, Yixian couldn't help but be stunned. Then he replied in his heart. Yes. Ding! Immortal Slaying bloodline merging. At this time, Yixian hurriedly checked the skills of the Immortal Slaying bloodline. The first advancement path was called the Path of Massacre. It integrated the Slaying God bloodline's instant kill, assassination mode, killer instinct, death hunt order, Eye of Assassination, and Thousand Extinction Flash. Thousand Extinction Flash was the advancement of the Shadow Step. Could be used in battle. As for the death hunting order, it was upgraded to 5 targets a day. The first attack after using the Eye of Assassination also increased the attack power from 30% to 50%. The second advancement path was called the Ultimate Realm. No matter what weapon was used, even if it was a fist, palm, or leg, the attack power would be doubled. In addition, all comprehension abilities would be doubled. This was useful for martial arts, magical powers, formations, and alchemy. The third advancement path was a skill called the Massacre Seal. It could be used 3 times a day. Once this Massacre Seal was used, 1 seal would be obtained. The Massacre Seal would gradually condense as one fought and killed. The limit was 5 seals. Every time 1 seal was consumed, the Massacre mode would be activated, and all attributes would be doubled. Consuming 2 seals would triple the attributes and so on. Once this mode was activated, it could be maintained indefinitely unless the host dispelled it, or the killing intent was depleted. Consuming 2 Massacre Seals at one time could summon an Immortal Slaying puppet to fight for the master. Consuming 3 Massacre Seals at one time could use the Immortal Slaying Breath Slash. Consuming 4 Massacre Seals at one time could summon an Immortal Slashing Arrow to attack the enemy. This Immortal Slashing Arrow would not be destroyed, but it could only attack the target of the Death Hunt order. Most importantly, this Immortal Slashing Arrow had a 100% chance of killing in 1 hit. Finally, there was a skill that consumed 5 Massacre Seals at one time, and that was the Immortal Slaying Sword formation. Chapter 1619. It had to be said that the Immortal Slaying bloodline was extremely powerful. Although the Feast of Slaughter was gone, the Slaughter mode appeared. As long as he kept fighting, he could condense new Slaughter Seals and use various skills. The Slaughter Seal could be used 3 times a day. In simple terms, Yixian could instantly obtain 3 Slaughter Seals and increase his strength by 3 times. He could also directly use the Immortal Slaying Puppet, or the Immortal Slaying Breath Slash. As for the Sword God bloodline's Ultimate Realm advancement, it was also indescribably awesome. From now on, Yixian's weapon would no longer be limited to swords. No matter what weapon he used, his attack power would be doubled. In addition, there were various improvements in perception. All in all, the Immortal Slaying bloodline was well spent. The only thing he didn't know was how powerful the skills of the Slaughter Seal were. With all 3 bloodlines fused, if he obtained Devouring points, he could directly strengthen those skills. Another advantage of fusing bloodlines was that some skills could be integrated together. This way, 1 Devouring point could be used to strengthen all of them. Now that the bloodlines had been fused, the next step was to deal with the aftermath, such as erasing the soul. However, at this moment, Willful raised his head in surprise because he suddenly felt a disgusting aura. At this moment, an Eye of Death appeared in the sky. Immediately after, the Eye of Death gradually condensed into a figure that Yixian and Wayward had seen before. It was actually the long-haired man who appeared after Di Hui's death. The aura has become much stronger. Is it because of the distance? Wayward snorted coldly in his heart. Eyes that could cross space were usually related to the distance. The eye of death that appeared in the heavenly dragon tribe last time was very weak. Wayward killed it instantly. However, this time he probably couldn't do it. It's you again. Die. When the long-haired man saw Yixian and Wayward, he didn't even absorb the will of death and directly attacked Wayward. With this long-haired man's realm, even if his body didn't descend, it would be easy for him to kill Ascension Realm martial artists. However, his attack had no effect on the Platinum Holy Light Dragon. Of course, it was the same for Yixian, who had the Immortal Phoenix bloodline. This aura, so it's the successor of the Emperor of Death. Easy. Wayward suddenly raised his eyebrows and said with a surprised expression. Hearing his name, the long-haired man couldn't help but be stunned. Who are you? He didn't expect that this white-haired youth in front of him could recognize him. Why do you care who I am? You must have come to the Penglai Holy Land for the Holy Master Badge, right? Aren't you? What? If you have the guts, why don't you show yourself and fight? Capricious snorted. Simple was filled with disdain. If you don't have the guts, then just say it. If you dare to show yourself, I'll send you to see your senior brother. Since that's the case, why don't you scram? Wayward's expression suddenly turned cold. Although it's all thanks to you, he's still my senior brother. Today, I'll avenge my senior brother. When Easy's voice fell, the will of death suddenly began to gather and condense into Easy's illusory body. Even if your true body comes, you can't do anything to me. What can a mere death clone do? Wayward still had a look of disdain on his face. Is that so? Then let's try. Easy suddenly used the will of death to condense a sharp blade and instantly attacked Wayward. Since your true body doesn't dare to come, then scram. Wayward didn't want to be entangled with Easy. Facing the latter who was already attacking, his aura instantly soared. Heaven Ascension Stage 2nd LV. Heaven Ascension Stage 3rd LV. Following that, Willful's body suddenly burst out with the white light. With just one blow, the simple death clone was directly blasted into nothingness. Instant kill. Trash, you still want to test me? Wayward snorted disdainfully. Yixian was helpless as well. This battle came out of nowhere and ended very quickly. However, Huang Xiaolong could feel that the Death Emperor's descendant's avatar was much stronger than the Black Flame Dragon tribe's patriarch. At the very least, it was at the 4th or 5th stage of the Heavenly Connection realm or even higher. However, such an existence was still blown away by the Platinum Holy Light Dragon Wayward. He probably won't come again. Absorb the will of death, Wayward suddenly said to Yixian. Oh. Yixian nodded and immediately used the Eyes of Death to absorb the remaining will of death. At this time, he only felt that it was a pity because there was only a little of the will of death left. Who was that just now? Yixian couldn't help but ask. Holy Land of Death, the successor of the Emperor of Death, Wayward replied. Holy Land of Death. Isn't that one of the 4 great holy lands? Yixian frowned. Wayward nodded. That's right. Easy already has the ability to pass the tribulation, but has been suppressing it to the peak of LV9 of the Heaven Ascension realm. He must be here for the Penglai Holy Land's Holy Leader token. What about you? Yixian asked. I'm not interested in the Holy Leader token. The reason why I can continuously break through is because I was in closed-door cultivation before coming to the Penglai Holy Land. I just suppressed it. If I want to, it won't be a problem for me to continuously break through again, Wayward replied. His mission was to infiltrate the Glazed Knights and investigate the matter of the map. If his realm suddenly increased by too much, it would be a little too high profile. All right. Yixian nodded silently. However, at this time, Yixian quickly returned to Linfeng City. Suddenly, an old voice fell into Yixian's ears. It was the badge's transmission. What's the matter, Head Knight? Yixian asked in shock. A big shot wants to see you, Head Knight Molly replied. A big shot? Yixian was slightly surprised when he heard this. He said, Okay, I'll return immediately. Then he turned to Wayward and said, Head Knight said a big shot wants to see me. Could it be Fairy Luli? That little girl Luli? Wayward was stunned. He said, Maybe it's her. Let's go back and take a look. After that, they cleaned up the battlefield and directly broke through the void, preparing to return to Tianlang City and then teleport to Linfeng City. Chapter 1620. If you can break through now, then hurry up and break through. Although it's only been a little more than a day, there have been cases in history where one could directly soar by a large realm in a single day. The higher your aptitude, the more attention you will receive, he willfully said to Yi Xian. Hearing this, Yi Xian couldn't help but pause. In fact, he wanted to reach the upper limit of killing intent again when his soul reached the 4th stage of the Undying Soul realm. He could reach it 3 times at most in a realm, and he had reached it twice now. One more time and he could strengthen all kinds of bloodlines, which would be very helpful to his strength. However, after hearing Headstrong's words, he felt that it made sense. One devouring point was indeed good, but it was only strengthening bloodlines once. The higher his aptitude, the more valuable treasures he could get. Bloodlines were only secondary, realm was the most important. Okay, I'll break through now. Yi Xian nodded, then directly devoured the heavenly and earthly treasures that he'd hoarded earlier. Ding, host has broken through. Current level is the 5th stage of the Undying Soul realm. Ding, spirit of ashes has broken through. Current level is the 7th stage of the Undying Soul realm. Ding, Wei Zhentian has broken through. Current level is the 7th stage of the Undying Soul realm. Ding, Ghost Dome Great Emperor has broken through. Current level is the 7th stage of the Undying Soul realm. Ding, host has broken through. Current level is the 9th stage of the Undying Soul realm. Ding, spirit of ashes has broken through. Current level is the 2nd stage of the Ascending Heaven realm. Ding, Wei Zhentian has broken through. Current level is the 2nd stage of the Ascending Heaven realm. Ding, Ghost Dome Great Emperor has broken through. Current level is the 2nd stage of the Ascending Heaven realm. After 20 consecutive system notifications, Yi Xian's realm soared and directly broke through to the 9th stage of the Undying Soul realm. The treasures he had obtained through the Platinum level exam were actually not enough to break through to such a high level. At most he had reached the 7th stage of the Undying Soul realm, but now he had reached the 9th stage of the Undying Soul realm. Don't forget, he had just exterminated the Black Flame Dragon clan. If it wasn't for the soul seeds and the good things hidden away, he probably could have broken through to the Ascending Heaven realm directly. You're already at the 9th level of the Undying Soul realm. Your speed is truly terrifying, Headstrong said with a face full of shock. He had absorbed a large amount of life force in the Life Saint sect, which was why he was able to continuously break through his shackles. However, Yi Xian had actually directly risen from the 4th stage of the Undying Soul realm to the 9th stage of the Undying Soul realm. This was a leap of 5 realms. If others were to know of this, they would probably be scared to death. Alright, let's go. Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. He had only been gone for a short while, but he had already jumped 5 levels. If Molly were to find out, who knew what kind of expression he would have? Then they directly entered Tianlang City and teleported back to Linfeng City. Hua! When they returned to the teleportation palace in Linfeng City, a person came to greet them. Sirs, you're back. A silver knight at the 6th tier of the heaven-reaching realm stepped forward and said respectfully. Although Yi Xian and Headstrong's realms were lower than this silver knight, one of them was a platinum knight, while the other was a gold knight. Their statuses were higher than this silver knight. Before Yi Xian could speak, the silver knight said, "The Knight Commander and the 5th Army Commander have gone to Jinwu City for an inspection. I'll have to trouble the 2 sirs to teleport us again." Jinwu City? Hearing this, Yi Xian and Headstrong both raised their eyebrows. Molly had just asked them to return to Linfeng City. Why did he leave again? However, their attention was focused on the words 5th Army Commander. The Glazed Knights were divided into 5 armies. Yi Xian was now part of the 5th Army, and the 5th Army Commander was the Glazed Knight Lin Guangyao. I thought it was a glazed girl. I didn't expect it to be a glazed knight. Headstrong said helplessly. Yi Xian was the same. After a sigh, he said to the Silver Knight, "Help us teleport to Jinwu City." Alright. The Silver Knight nodded and began to operate the teleportation array again. Yi Xian and Headstrong had just joined the Glazed Knights and didn't know much about the cities under their command, so they didn't suspect anything. However, when they arrived at the teleportation array, they discovered that something was wrong. How had Jinwu City been destroyed? Under the coverage of Yi Xian's spiritual awareness, There wasn't a single living person. It was like a dead city. Most importantly, when they landed on the teleportation array, several of its eyes suddenly exploded and self-destructed. Yi Xian's expression immediately changed and he looked at Headstrong. TSK, TSK, TSK. We fell into a trap. Headstrong immediately reacted and looked at the figure that had suddenly appeared in the teleportation palace. He grinned. At this time, a man wearing a blood-red robe walked in. Even his hair and eyes were red. His aura was very strong. Even Yi Xian, who had reached the 9th stage of the Undying Soul Realm, couldn't see through the other party's depth. 8th stage of the Ascension Realm. You should be a bloodthirsty mad dragon, right? Headstrong said with a smile. Bloodthirsty mad dragon? How could there be a bloodthirsty mad dragon in Jinwu City? This time Yi Xian understood. It turned out that the Silver Knight just now was a traitor who had tricked them into coming to Jinwu City. This was a trap. You can actually recognize me. You're quite capable. The man in blood-red robes walked in, then glanced at Yi Xian and said, The 5 glazed knights of the glazed knights all have outstanding battle strength. They all passed the platinum level exam in one go. I didn't expect that another one would come. I must kill you in the cradle. You've already set up a space-locking array? Not a bad plan. But with me protecting him, it won't be so easy for you to kill him. Headstrong said calmly. What right does a 3rd stage Ascension Realm Gold Knight have to speak in front of me? The man in blood-red robes snorted coldly and directly attacked, preparing to kill Headstrong. He was going to capture Yi Xian. As for this Gold Knight, he didn't care. Unfortunately, how could he know that Headstrong also had the strength to pass the platinum level exam? Even if Blood Chuanqiu came, I wouldn't be afraid, let alone you, a mere 8th stage Ascension Realm warrior? Headstrong snorted coldly, and his aura surged again. 4th stage Ascension Realm. 5th stage Ascension Realm. 6th stage Ascension Realm. 7th stage Ascension Realm. 8th stage Ascension Realm. 9th peak Ascension Realm. In an instant, Headstrong broke through from 3rd stage Ascension Realm to 9th peak Ascension Realm. It only took a moment. When the man in blood-red robes felt this aura, his whole body trembled. How could this be? Before he could react, Headstrong attacked. Swish. Puff. A white light directly pierced through the man's head, killing him instantly. Then the man's soul floated out. At this level of soul, the void fire sword wave couldn't hurt it, so Yi Xian could only watch as Headstrong destroyed the soul. How did you? Yi Xian turned his head in shock. Chapter 1621. Then he willfully took out a white dragon token from his universe ring and handed it over to Yi Xian. This token is the same as the Night Legion's insignia. You can obtain it from me. I'll go to the Penglai demon race for a stroll. You haven't told me what map it is? Yi Xian asked in surprise. It's called the Sky-Piercing Treasure Map. Capricious replied. What? The Sky-Piercing Treasure Map? Yi Xian was shocked. He had obtained one before. Why, you've heard of it? Capricious turned his head strangely. Yi Xian had obtained the Sky-Piercing Treasure Map from the Yin-Yang ancestor. In order to repay old immortal Tianju's kindness, he gave it to old immortal Tianju as a reward. He didn't expect it to be so precious. I've seen it on the Merit Hall's mission list. The Glazed Knights are also looking for it. What is it? Yi Xian didn't say anything. He felt that this was no small matter. If he told Capricious about it, what if old immortal Tianju was unhappy? The Sky-Piercing Treasure Map. As long as you gather all the pieces, you can find the passage to the immortal realm. Do you understand? Capricious explained. The passage to the immortal realm? Yi Xian frowned and nodded. So this Sky-Piercing Treasure Map was to find the passage to the immortal realm. As long as the passage to the immortal realm could be opened, then Ascension Realm cultivators could directly ascend to the immortal realm. After all, true immortals were much stronger than rogue immortals. At this time, Capricious put away the bloodthirsty berserk dragon's corpse and said, I can't hide my cultivation anymore. I'll send you to a nearby city. You can teleport back to Linfeng City. I'll go out and take a look. As for the trap just now, it's up to you. Okay. Yi Xian nodded and directly passed through the spatial rift that Capricious opened and arrived in front of a city. Now he was alone again. He originally wanted to rely on Capricious to get a few devour points, But it seemed that wouldn't work. At that moment he directly rushed into the city. This city was also guarded by the glazed knights. When they felt the aura of the platinum badge on Yixian's body, they were all shocked. Very quickly, he teleported back to Linfeng City. However, the silver knight from before was nowhere to be seen. Head Knight, I'm back. Yixian transmitted his voice to Molly. I'm at the knight's main hall, Molly replied. Yixian didn't tell Molly about what happened just now, so the latter didn't know. Yixian immediately rushed to the knight's main hall. When he arrived, he sensed two powerful auras inside. One of them belonged to Molly, while the other one was more powerful than Molly, but he was stronger than Molly. Yixian walked straight in and performed a knight's salute. Greetings, Knight Commander. The ninth stage of the Undying Soul Realm? How is that possible? When Molly saw Yixian, he immediately realized this and stood up in shock. I was out on a mission yesterday and happened to obtain a stalk of soul heart grass. Yixian casually made up an excuse. Molly didn't ask further. He stroked his beard and said, Not bad, not bad. Not only is your aptitude extremely high, but you also have great luck. At this moment, the other man in silver armor walked over. I'm the 5th Corps Commander Lin Guangyao. The man in silver armor said with a smile. Greetings, Corps Commander. Yixian hurriedly greeted him. The man in front of him was the legendary glazed knight Lin Guangyao. Although he was also at the peak of Heaven Pass Realm LV9 like Molly, his strength was much stronger than Molly's. You're very good. When I heard the news, I wanted to meet you personally, Lin Guangyao said. After me, you're the 6th genius to pass the platinum test in one go. It's very likely that you'll become the 6th glazed knight in the future. After he finished speaking, he took out a wooden scroll from his interspatial ring and handed it to Yixian. This is the glazed treasure body? Yixian glanced at it and quickly copied it down. The glazed treasure body was the reason why Lin Guangyao was so powerful. However, if he wanted to master it, he would need 500 pieces of each of the 5 elements of metal: wood, water, fire, and earth. As long as you can master the glazed treasure body, you'll become the 6th glazed knight. Here are 1,000 pieces of each element. Take them first. Lin Guangyao took out a big bag, which contained all kinds of glazed treasure bodies. Many people in the glazed knights had already tried to master the glazed treasure body, but they hadn't succeeded. Some people had even spent tens of thousands of glazed treasure bodies. Yixian only needed 500 pieces of glazed treasure bodies. It was quite easy. Thank you, Corps Commander. Yixian didn't argue. After thanking him, he put away the glazed treasured bodies. If you run out of them, you can ask Molly for more. As long as you can master it, it's worth it no matter how much you spend. By the way, have you condensed a soul seed? Lin Guangyao asked. Well, I accidentally fell 2 years ago. I haven't condensed a soul seed yet. Yixian made up an excuse. If that's the case, try not to go out. There are some spies in the glazed knights from the 3 evil holy lands. They probably already know about you and want to kill you, Lin Guangyao reminded him. Hearing this, Yixian nodded in agreement. After thinking for a while, he decided not to tell Molly about what happened just now. He didn't want to arouse Molly's suspicion. Then the 5th Corps Commander Lin Guangyao left, leaving Yixian and Molly behind. Go back and try it out first. I'll send 2 retainer knights to protect you later, Molly said to Yixian. Yes. Yixian nodded and immediately left the knight's main hall. Right now, what he wanted the most was to first master the glazed treasure body. Soon, he returned to his residence and closed the door. Ding! You have successfully mastered the glazed treasured body. The system notified. It only took a moment to master the glazed treasured body. When the system notified him, Yixian felt that his physique had increased by 3 times. As long as he succeeded, Yixian would not be killed by the spatial crack unless there was a huge gap between their realms. Moreover, the stronger his physique, the higher his chances of surviving the immortal tribulation in the future. Most importantly, the glazed treasure body seemed to be divided into several stages. Currently, Yixian had mastered the first stage. As long as he collected a certain amount of glazed treasure body, he could upgrade to the second stage. The glazed treasure body had a total of 9 stages. Yixian wondered how strong his physique would be after he reached the 9th stage. There were at least thousands of gold knights and dozens of platinum knights in the glazed knights. Among them, 5 had mastered the glazed treasure body and become glazed knights. Chapter 1622. Forget it, I'll stay here for a few days. Yixian thought to himself. At this moment 2 figures suddenly landed outside his courtyard. Both of them had powerful auras and were gold knights of reaching Heaven Realm LV7. Yixian knew that they were the 2 retainer knights sent by Mali. The 2 retainer knights saw that Yixian's door was closed, so they didn't disturb him and just waited outside obediently. Yixian didn't plan to go out either. Instead, he took out the remaining colored glaze. The glaze was a very peculiar thing. Seemed to be some kind of ore. There were 5 types in total: gold glaze, wood glaze, water glaze, fire glaze, and earth glaze. These things were very valuable, so Yixian decided to devour them after thinking about it. Ding! Host has made a breakthrough. Current level is reaching Heaven Realm LV1. Ding! Wei Zhentian has made a breakthrough. Current level is reaching Heaven Realm LV3. Ding! Ghost Dome Great Emperor has made a breakthrough. Current level is reaching Heaven Realm LV3. 3 consecutive system notifications sounded. Yixian had finally broken through to reaching Heaven Realm. Because the glaze was an ore, Old Tree was still reaching Heaven Realm LV2. I've finally broken through to reaching Heaven Realm. Yixian narrowed his eyes and waved his hand. A spatial crack appeared in front of him. The spatial crack wasn't big, so it quickly returned to normal. Previously, Yixian had to use the eyes of the void and space to break through the void. Now he didn't need to. Of course, this didn't mean that the eyes of the void and space were useless. After all, his realm was low, so the distance he could break through the void was smaller than the eyes of the void. The space I could increase the power of tearing through space, so it wasn't bad. With my current bloodline and realm, I should be able to easily challenge those 4 levels above me. With the help of Old Tree and the other 2, it's not impossible for me to challenge those 5 or 6 levels above me. Thinking of this, Yixian's confidence suddenly skyrocketed. Of course, if he encountered those geniuses, he probably wouldn't be able to challenge those who were so many levels above him. At this time he thought of Luoluo. He heard from old immortal Tianju that Luoluo was born in Penglai. Now, I should be strong enough to go to Penglai, Yixian muttered to himself. Although old immortal Tianju could guarantee Luoluo's safety, the Demon Emperor's inheritance had been obtained by someone else. The 3 evil Dao holy grounds were going to find trouble with the Penglai demon race. Who knew what would happen? After all, old immortal Tianju was only the sacred master of the Luguang sacred land. As a rogue immortal, he could not attack in the Penglai sacred land. Now that Yixian had cultivated the glazed treasure body, he was thinking of leaving Linfeng City in a few days and heading to the Penglai demon race. However, on the 3rd day of his seclusion, something happened in Linfeng City. Rumble. Yixian opened his eyes when a series of loud noises came from the sky. What happened? Yixian raised an eyebrow and walked out of his residence. The 2 retainer knights outside the door didn't know what was going on, because they had been waiting here for 3 days. Yixian, there's an enemy attack. Hurry and teleport to the 5th main city. Suddenly, the head knight's voice rang in Yixian's mind. At the same time, the 2 retainer knights outside the door also received the same news. What? Yixian was shocked. Someone was attacking Linfeng City? What a joke. One must know that in Linfeng City, other than the head knight Mali, there were several Ascension Realm LV9 experts and 100,000 knights. Who dared to attack? Moreover, there were many cities around Linfeng City. How did the enemy break through the encirclement? Before he could react, Mali continued. Damn it, the teleportation palace was destroyed by a traitor. Hurry and go to the main night hall. There is a hidden teleportation array under the statue. Use your platinum badge to open the mechanism. It seemed that the enemy had come prepared this time. It was just that he didn't know which faction was attacking Linfeng City. The sounds of battle began to ring continuously. Yixian looked over and saw a black mass of figures in the distance. So it was the Demonic Dragon Palace. The Demonic Dragon Palace was a faction established by the Giant Dragon Clan after they were expelled from the Penglai Demon Clan. It was very strong. Although there were no rogue immortal experts, there were many Ascension Realm LV9 experts. This time they had obviously come prepared. They directly transformed into their true forms and acted recklessly in Linfeng City. At the same time, the glazed knights were also orderly. "Sir, let's go quickly," the two retainer knights said. In fact, they really wanted to participate in the battle because they were not weak. However, the head knight ordered them to protect Yixian, so they had to stay close to Yixian. "Linfeng City is under attack. How can I retreat?" Yixian saw that everyone around him was rushing toward the enemy. He directly took out his weapon. However, before they could react, a spatial rift suddenly tore open nearby, and then a few figures flashed out from within it. This is the kid who passed the platinum test at such a young age. If he grows up, he will definitely be a big problem. Kill him. The gazes of the three experts at the 8th level of the Heavenly Ascension stage descended onto Yixian. The news that Yixian passed the platinum test was well known. His portrait naturally fell into the hands of the enemy. Not good. The expression of one of the retainer knights changed greatly. He directly drew a large sword and went to meet them. Another one grabbed Yixian's shoulder and said, "Sir, let's go." Obviously, Yixian had become the target of everyone. Many people wanted to kill him. The three experts who broke through space this time were all elders of the demonic dragon palace, Ascension Realm LV8. However, the strength of the glazed knights gold knights was not to be underestimated. Although they were one realm lower than the enemy and did not have the advantage in terms of numbers, true geniuses could ignore such things. In an instant, the gold knight exchanged blows with the enemy. Although it was 1 against 3, he actually had the upper hand. The glazed knights are indeed extraordinary. One of the enemies sighed and directly transformed into his true form. Although the people of the demon clan could not use their true chi after transforming into their true form, their strength was much stronger. Moreover, they were giant dragons of the demon clan. "You go and help," Yixian said to the other person. "No, I will stay and protect, sir." After the other retainer knight finished speaking, he directly broke open a spatial crack leading to the night main hall. The space in Linfeng City was stable. Originally, it was impossible to break open the void. However, this formation was obviously damaged. Otherwise, how could these three experts of the giant dragon clan break through space and come here? Seeing that Yixian was still pondering, the retainer knight resisted the urge to forcibly take Yixian away and said, "Sir, please teleport to the 5th main city first. Only then can I join the battle." In a battle of this level, if he joined even a second later, a large number of his companions would die. Therefore, his blood was already boiling. Alright. Chapter 1623. Although Yixian had a high aptitude, he was only at LV1 of the Ascension Realm. Even with the help of Old Tree and the other two, he could at most fight with LV6 or 7 of the Ascension Realm. If a LV8 or 9 of the Ascension Realm came, he would be dead meat. It should be known that the experts who came this time were at least LV6 of the Ascension Realm. When necessary, it was better to be a coward. As long as there was life, there was hope. Yixian understood this principle. Immediately, he passed through the spatial crack and arrived at the main hall of knights. Whoosh! The spatial crack was repaired. As for the retainer knight, he joined the battle. Just now, the head knight transmitted to him that there was a hidden transmission array under the statue of the main hall of knights. It could lead to the 5th main city, which was the city of Lin Guangyao, the commander of the 5th army. However, what surprised him was that the statue in the main hall of knights was damaged. The hidden transmission array was also destroyed? Yixian's eyes widened. He hurried down to check. As expected, the transmission array was destroyed. Head knight, this transmission array was also destroyed. Yixian hurriedly transmitted to Mali. As expected, this time the enemy came prepared and attacked dozens of major cities at the same time. The 5th main city is in the same situation as us. After Mali finished speaking, he added, "For this battle we will retreat and fight. You stay in the main hall of knights. But be careful of the others. Don't trust them, even if it's a gold knight." Okay. Yixian nodded. Then, he summoned Old Tree and the other two. At the same time, he transmitted a message to Wayward through the White Dragon token. The glazed knights were also attacked? The 3 Holy Lands really went all out this time, Wayward replied. Also, Yixian was a little surprised. Tianjue Palace was also attacked. Of course, the main force went to the Penglai monster tribe to seize the half of the monster emperor's inheritance, Wayward explained. A three-way attack. This is to prevent the glazed knights in Tianjue Palace from supporting the Penglai monster tribe? Yixian immediately reacted. That's right. However, the three great evil holy lands have miscalculated this time. The Penglai goblin tribe once had a loose immortal. Before the dragon sparrow fairy died, she made the space in the Penglai goblin tribe extremely stable. Now that old immortal Tianju is guarding the Penglai goblin tribe, no one can charge in. After hearing Caprice's words, Yixian couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. After all, Lualua was also in the Penglai demon race. Wait there, I'll be right there. Capricious continued. At this time Yixian had already changed his face. Unless he was a member of the Glazed Knights, no one should be able to recognize him. However, at this moment, a few people suddenly rushed into the Knights' main hall. However, the strength of these few people was not very strong. They were merely preparatory knights at the third or fourth stage of the heavenly completion realm. Kill! The leading bronze knight raised his eyebrows and charged forward with his weapon. You recognize me? Yixian was a little surprised. He suddenly realized that his disguise was useless. Old Tree, Ghost Dome Emperor, and Wei Zhentian had exposed him because he had previously gone with Capricious to exterminate the Black Flame Dragon tribe. Most importantly, he was a Platinum Knight. Even preparatory knights would be able to recognize him. Clearly, these few people were traitors. Kill them all. Yixian immediately gave the order to Old Tree's trio. There were a total of 5 people. The leader was at the 4th stage of the Heavenly Completion Realm, while the other 4 were at the 3rd stage of the Heavenly Completion Realm. If they were regular knights, Yixian would be somewhat afraid. However, these were merely preparatory knights at the 3rd and 4th stage of the Heavenly Completion Realm. Although Yixian was only at the 1st level of the Heaven Ascension Realm, he had already successfully cultivated the Glazed Treasure Body. Even if he was alone, he would be able to fight against these elite knights, not to mention joining hands with Old Shu and the other 2. In less than 3 rounds, the 5 bronze knights were killed by Yixian's group. Their souls were also scattered. Ding! The Ash Spirit has broken through. Current 3rd stage of the Heavenly Completion Realm. These 5 universe rings allowed Old Tree to break through to the 3rd stage of the Heavenly Completion Realm, increasing his strength by a lot. However, in the next moment, a thorny figure appeared. This person was at the 8th stage of the Heavenly Completion Realm, and was also a Gold Knight. This time they were in trouble. My apologies, my lord. The Gold Knight smiled coldly. The head knight, Molly, was already being held back by the Vice Palace Master of the Demonic Dragon Palace. The other experts were also unable to free themselves. Who could protect Yixian now? However, Yixian's expression was very calm. This was because he saw a spatial crack open in front of him. Immediately after, a white-haired youth walked out from it. Peak 9th stage of the Heavenly Completion Realm. Wayward had arrived in time. What? The Gold Knight was shocked. Wayward's realm was higher than his, and he was also a Gold Knight. Most importantly, Wayward's face was very unfamiliar to him. There were dozens of Platinum Knights in the Glazed Knights. In addition, there were hundreds of 9th stage Heavenly Completion Realm Gold Knights. He knew all of these people. You want to touch him? You're courting death. After Wayward appeared, he did not waste any words and directly attacked. As a former itinerant immortal, Wayward's strength was unquestionable. With just one attack, he finished off the Gold Knight in front of him. You really came in time. Otherwise, I would have been dead. Yixian smiled awkwardly. If you were dead, who would help me get the Heavenly Completion treasure map? Wayward smiled and went over to put away the spoils of war. Then he glanced outside. Our main target this time is the Penglai demons, so we're just stalling for time. This battle will probably end soon, Wayward said. Since old immortal Tianju is overseeing the Penglai demons, will there be itinerant immortal experts from the 3 evil holy lands? Yixian asked. Wayward shook his head and said, No, but to my surprise, the Prince of Netherworld from the Netherworld Holy Land is also here. The Prince of Netherworld? Yixian raised an eyebrow. The Prince of Netherworld's status is the same as the successor of the Emperor of Death. But don't worry, the Buddhist Holy Land also sent a Bodhisattva. Including me, all 4 holy lands are here. Wayward said. Yi Xian guessed that the Prince of Netherworld and the Bodhisattva were both peak LV9 Heavenly Completion Realm experts and had come for the Holy Leader token. The commotion outside seemed to have died down. Yi Xian could not help but go out to take a look. He said, "The demonic dragon palace seems to be retreating. They must have received news that they can't defeat the Penglai demons, so they're retreating." After Wayward finished speaking, he threw the interspatial ring of the Gold Knight to Yi Xian and said, "You can have it. Your cultivation level is too low. You can't even protect yourself." "Thank you." Yi Xian took the interspatial ring. "As long as you can help me get the Heavenly Completion treasure map, it won't be a problem to push you to the peak LV9 Heavenly Completion realm." Wayward grinned. At this time a voice suddenly sounded in the sky. Chapter 1624. Glazed Knights will let you go for now. Let's go. The Vice Palace Master of the Demonic Dragon Palace said a few words before leading the large army away. Both sides had suffered heavy losses in this battle. Of course, the losses of the three evil holy lands were beyond imagination. After all, they didn't know that Elder Immortal Tianju was in the Penglai demon race. Nor did they know that the Penglai demon race had a stable space. At this time Molly directly rushed over. He looked at Caprice with a serious expression and said, "Who are you?" Although Headstrong still had the gold badge in his body, he had broken through from the Undying Soul realm to the peak of the Connecting Heaven realm in just a few days. Life Saint Sect Headstrong. After he finished speaking, he transformed into his Platinum Holy Light Dragon form and spoke in human language. The Prince of Netherworld from the Netherworld Sacred Land, the successor of the Emperor of Death from the Death Sacred Land, and the Arhat from the Buddhist sect are all here. How can I not come? Seeing this, Molly was stunned. This was indeed a Platinum Holy Light Dragon. He didn't expect that in addition to the three evil Holy Lands, the people from the four Holy Lands were all here. It seemed that the battle for the Holy Lands would be very fierce. But all in all, Yi Xian was safe, which was a blessing in disguise. "Yi Xian, this place is not complete. The Legion commander just sent a message. Once the teleportation formation is repaired, he will take you to the commander." Molly said, "Commander?" After hearing this, Yi Xian and Headstrong couldn't help but look at each other. Wasn't the commander of the Glazed Knights Fairy Luli? Okay. Yi Xian nodded immediately. In fact, Molly didn't completely trust Yi Xian, so he wanted to hand Yi Xian over to Fairy Luli to see if he was sent by the enemy. However, Yi Xian was related to the Life Saint sect, so he shouldn't be a member of the evil faction. No matter what, it was right to hand Yi Xian over to Fairy Luli. Although the experts of the Demonic Dragon Palace had retreated, the atmosphere in Linfeng City was still very strange. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Molly found many traders, including many gold knights. Of course, it was impossible to find all the traders. After all, the Glazed Knights were a mixed group of people. In addition to humans and demons, there were also beasts and other races. Soon the teleportation array was repaired, and Linfeng City was connected to the fifth main city. Then Lin Guangyao teleported over. "How are the casualties?" Lin Guangyao immediately asked when he saw Molly. "It's not that serious," Molly replied. "That's good." Lin Guangyao nodded, and then his gaze fell on Caprice. Seeing this, Molly immediately explained, "He's a Platinum Holy Light Dragon, called Capricious. Why would someone from the Life Saint sect join my Glazed Knights?" Lin Guangyao asked in surprise. "Can't I just come in and have some fun?" He shrugged his shoulders and said, "If it weren't for me today, Yi Xian would be dead. There are quite a few traitors in your Glazed Knights." Although Lin Guangyao was a little unhappy when he heard this, he understood that Capricious was not an ordinary person. Even if he cultivated the glazed treasure body, he was not confident that he could defeat him. "Yi Xian, come with me to see the commander." Lin Guangyao directly ignored Capricious and said to Yi Xian. Before Yi Xian could speak, Capricious interrupted. "Are you going to see your Fairy Luli? Bring me along." "You?" Lin Guangyao frowned. "I'm familiar with your commander," Capricious said disdainfully. Lin Guangyao narrowed his eyes and then used the badge to transmit his voice. "Bring them over." After receiving this response, Lin Guangyao nodded, and then led Yi Xian and Capricious into the teleportation array. They first teleported to the fifth main city, Then to the headquarters of the Glazed Knights, the Glazed Holy Mountain. This was the headquarters of the Glazed Knights. There were countless experts here, and Fairy Luli also lived here. As soon as Lin Guangyao and the others walked out of the teleportation array, 2 female Golden Knights of Ascension Realm LV9 came up to them. "This way, please." The 2 female knights with hot figures walked in the front, leading Yi Xian and the others into the Glazed Holy Mountain. These 2 female knights wore relatively little armor, and their fair skin was exposed to the air, attracting the attention of the surrounding passers-by. However, they didn't dare to look directly, because these 2 female knights were Fairy Luli's disciples, and their status was comparable to that of several legion commanders. Soon, under the guidance of these 2 female knights, Yi Xian and the others entered the Glazed Holy Mountain. After passing through layers of spirit arrays, they arrived at the Glazed Holy Temple. At this time, there was a beautiful figure sitting on the Glazed Holy Temple's main seat. This person was Fairy Luli, whom Yi Xian had met once before. She wore a set of pink armor, and her valiant appearance was very different from her appearance that day. When she saw Yi Xian and Capricious behind Lin Guangyao, her expression was slightly surprised. The reason for this change in expression was not because of Capricious, but because of Yi Xian next to Capricious. "Greetings, Commander." Lin Guangyao performed a knight's salute. Fairy Luli glanced at him, and then her gaze fell on Yi Xian again, saying, "I didn't expect it to be you." "Greetings, Senior." Yi Xian hurriedly greeted her. Obviously, Fairy Luli recognized him. Hearing this, Lin Guangyao was surprised. He didn't expect Yi Xian to know Fairy Luli. How was this possible? 2 years ago, you didn't even reach the manifestation realm, but 2 years later, you actually broke through to the connecting heaven realm. I'm afraid even a true immortal can't compare to you. Fairy Luli couldn't help but sigh. Yes, this kid's cultivation speed is even inferior to my Life Holy Sect's chief disciple. This kid joined your Glazed Knights because of me. How about it? Shouldn't you thank me? Capricious directly found a seat and sat down, as if the Glazed Knights were his home. The grievances between you and me have been written off. What are you doing here? Fairy Luli coldly snorted. TCH, if you didn't beat me back to my original form, I'm afraid I would have passed the first itinerant immortal tribulation. However, I have to thank you. If not, I wouldn't have been able to compete for the Holy Leader token, Capricious said with a smile. Hearing this, Lin Guangyao was shocked again. 1 itinerant immortal tribulation? This Capricious was actually a itinerant immortal before. The peak of the connecting heaven realm's 9th layer was the immortal tribulation. If the immortal world's passage wasn't closed, one would become an immortal after passing the immortal tribulation and could ascend to the immortal tribulation. However, the passage was closed, so one could only become an itinerant immortal after passing the immortal tribulation. Once one became an itinerant immortal, there would be an itinerant immortal tribulation every 1,000 years. It didn't have to be a peak first tribulation itinerant immortal. Of course, the stronger one was, the higher the success rate of passing the tribulation. Capricious wanted to pass a itinerant immortal tribulation, which meant that he was a first tribulation itinerant immortal before, and after passing it, he would become a second tribulation itinerant immortal. Humph, it's not that easy for you to get the Holy Leader token. Fairy Luli didn't care about Capricious. Pa! Headstrong suddenly slapped the chair and stood up, saying, I think you should also know that other than the 3 evil Holy Lands, the Holy Land of Death and the Netherworld Holy Land have also sent experts over. Although you have the help of the Buddhist Holy Land's Buddhist Holy Land, don't forget that the Penglai Goblin Clan and the Heaven End Palace also want this Holy Master token. Chapter 1625. How about you marry me? I can represent the Life Holy Land and stand on your side. Hearing these words, the other 3 people in the Night Temple were all shocked, as if they had misheard. Willful wanted Fairy Luli to marry him? What wishful thinking! Fairy Luli coldly snorted. That's not necessarily true. If not for the previous incident, no one would have known that Taoist Ling Xiao of the Buddhist Holy Land had such a beautiful daughter. So my father proposed marriage to him, and guess what? Capricious suddenly revealed a crafty look, his eyes somewhat wretchedly looking at Fairy Luli. That's impossible. Hearing this, Fairy Luli immediately became anxious. She had never heard of such a thing. Little girl, you will be my Ren family's daughter-in-law sooner or later. You better compromise, or you won't get the Holy Master badge. Willful sat back down. A toad wants to eat swan meat. Fairy Luli calmed down. In that case, let's see who's the real deal. You may not know, but my life holy sect's chief disciple is already on his way. When the time comes, he will join hands with me. Your chances of getting the Holy Master badge will be less than 10%. Willful reminded. The competition for the Holy Master badge of the Penglai Holy Land was very fierce. Apart from the three evil Holy Lands, the Life Holy Land, the Buddhist Holy Land, the Death Holy Land, and the Netherworld Holy Land had all sent people. Not only that, but the Penglai monster race in Tianju Palace were also united. Therefore, it would be extremely difficult for Fairy Luli to get the Holy Master badge. Originally, Willful didn't want to fight for the Holy Master badge, but he suddenly thought of something. He could use the Holy Master badge to exchange for the sky-connecting treasure map. Fairy Luli would definitely agree to this deal. Hearing the conversation between Willful and Fairy Luli, Lin Guangyao also broke out in cold sweat, not daring to interrupt. At this time, Fairy Luli suddenly said, Yixian, you've cultivated the colored glass treasured body? Yes. Yixian nodded. Lin Guangyao's expression changed and he said in shock, How is that possible? It had only been 3 days since he gave Yixian the colored glazed treasured body, but Yixian had already mastered the colored glazed treasured body. How was this possible? Breaking through to the connecting heaven realm in 2 years is already a miracle. It's also reasonable for you to cultivate the colored glazed treasure body in 3 days. Fairy Luli said calmly. After her reminder, Lin Guangyao also felt that it made sense. Just now, when Fairy Luli was arguing with Headstrong, she had neglected Yixian. Only now did Fairy Luli discover this point. Headstrong had also heard of the strength of the glazed treasure body, but it was nothing to him. After all, his body was also very strong, and it was not any weaker than the glazed treasure body. Looking at Yixian, Fairy Luli suddenly had a plan in her mind, but before she could open her mouth, a female knight who was waiting outside the door came in. Master, there is a person called Yin waiting outside the colored glass sacred mountain. The female knight said. A single thought. This name had appeared just now. It was the Arhat of the Buddhist sect's holy land. Let him in. Hearing this name, Fairy Luli's cold face could not help but smile. Oh, this little monk came at the right time. Headstrong said in surprise. Soon, the female knight who had just left came in with a somewhat handsome bald young man. This bald young man was the Arhat of the Buddhist sect's holy land, Yin. He was wearing a golden kasaya, with one hand clasped together and the other holding a demon-subduing pestle. Greetings, senior sister. After seeing Fairy Luli, Yin nodded slightly. In the Buddhist sect's holy land, there were 2 branches of Buddhism and Taoism. The Buddhist branch was led by the Buddhist Supreme, and the Taoist branch was led by Taoist Ling Shao. However, the 2 branches had a good relationship, so Yin called Fairy Luli senior sister. Junior brother, this time I have to trouble you. After glancing at Headstrong, Fairy Luli said to Yin, Quite a handsome little monk. Why did you become a monk? Headstrong touched his handsome white hair, fantasizing in his heart that if he became bald, would he also be so handsome? Shut up. Fairy Luli snorted coldly. This was her territory, and Headstrong treated it as his own home and sat down casually, but now he even ridiculed her junior brother. She obviously couldn't stand it. Greetings, senior. The one thought monk sensed the life aura in Headstrong's body and immediately recognized him. I heard you have only cultivated for 300 years. Not bad, not bad. Are you interested in joining my life holy sect? I have many beauties there. You can take whichever one you like. If you dual cultivate, your cultivation speed might be faster. Headstrong said with a smile that was not a smile. This time, Fairy Luli was completely furious. White-haired dragon, if you keep talking nonsense, don't blame me for being impolite. Right now, you only have Lin Guangyao and Yin to fight. Who are you trying to scare? After Headstrong said that, he couldn't help but glance at Fairy Luli. Seeing that Fairy Luli seemed to be really angry, he shrugged and said, Forget it, I won't lower myself to the same level as a woman. Anyway, you will be my Ren family's daughter-in-law sooner or later. In the Penglai Holy Land, loose immortals were not allowed to fight, so Fairy Luli really couldn't do anything to Headstrong. After all, Headstrong was once a loose immortal expert. Even if Lin Guangyao and the One-Thought Monk worked together, they probably would not be his opponent. Lin Guangyao, arrange a place for him to stay. Fairy Luli said to Lin Guangyao. No need. The chief disciple of my life holy sect is also here. Farewell, Luli. Headstrong suddenly stood up. After glancing at Yixian, he directly left the colored glaze holy land. It had to be said that obtaining a holy leader's token really was not easy. On the life holy sect's side, there was Headstrong's platinum dragon and chief disciple. On the Holy Land of Death side, there was the successor of the Holy Land of Death. The Netherworld Holy Land also had a prince of Netherworld. In addition, the Penglai demon race and Heaven End Palace working together was not just for show. It was basically impossible to steal a holy leader's token from these forces. After all, there were just too many experts. Right now, Fairy Luli was wondering whether she should ask her father to send some people over. However, after thinking about it, she decided to give up on this idea. Inyuan, take your martial uncle to rest. Lin Guangyao, you can go back to your work too. Fairy Luli said to the two of them. Yes, a female knight answered, then left with the One-Thought Monk. He still had matters to attend to in the fifth main city, so Lin Guangyao also took his leave first. Afterwards, only Fairy Luli and Yixian were left in the colored glaze holy temple. Was it that white dragon who asked you to join the glazed knights? Fairy Luli asked straightforwardly. Sort of. Yixian nodded. Since Headstrong had already been exposed, he did not hide anything. Chapter 1626. Fairy Luli slowly walked down the stairs and said, I also want to get the Holy Lord token, but I can't do it myself, and the people sent by the various forces are not weak. I'm afraid it won't be easy to get the Holy Lord token. So I just want to ask you one thing. Are you sure you can improve your cultivation in a short time and then help me? After hearing Fairy Luli's words, Yixian's eyes narrowed slightly and said, That depends on what price Senior is willing to pay. Whatever you want, just say it. Fairy Luli said generously. In this regard, Yixian did not immediately answer but asked, When will the other half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance appear? Based on the speed of the Demon Emperor's heir, it will take at least 3 days and at most half a month, Fairy Luli replied. At the same time, she had to admit that the Demon Emperor's heir's talent was a bit strong. Even if half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance was refined by a loose immortal, it would not be so fast. If that's the case, then I won't be polite. The corners of Yixian's mouth slightly raised. The more urgent the time was, the more Fairy Luli would pay attention to it, so he could ask for an exorbitant price. Although Fairy Luli could not do it, she was still a loose immortal, and the youngest daughter of the Buddhist sect's Holy Land Taoist Ling Xiao. Her background was not small. Then, her wealth was probably beyond imagination. Immediately, he made a list of what he needed, which was similar to the things he swallowed. Fire attribute heaven and earth treasures, strange flames, ores and so on, but there was also the 5 attributes Luli, because he wanted to cultivate the Luli treasure body. I have a way to refine heaven and earth treasures in a short time and improve my cultivation. After Yixian finished, he paused and said, However, this is only one of the conditions. I have another condition. What condition? Fairy Luli asked. Yixian said without thinking. Willful said you have a sky-piercing treasure map, so I want to see it. His mission was not to obtain the sky-bearing treasure map, but to confirm whether Fairy Luli had the sky-bearing treasure map. As long as it was confirmed, his mission would be considered complete. After hearing Yixian's words, Fairy Luli's face suddenly turned cold. She didn't expect that in addition to being interested in the Holy Master token, this willful fellow was also coveting her heavenly treasure map. Although he didn't know where Caprice got this information, it wasn't important. Just a glance? Fairy Luli asked in surprise. Yes, I just want to take a look. Senior, just hold it in your hand. Yixian nodded solemnly. Fairy Luli was silent. She didn't know what kind of trick Yixian was playing. Even if she really gave the heaven-reaching treasure map to Yixian, given his cultivation level of heaven-reaching realm tier 1, Yixian wouldn't be able to take it away. Moreover, she would be the one holding the map. All right, I promise you. Fairy Luli responded with a sentence. In any case, she wouldn't be in any danger in this little holy land. After all, even loose immortals couldn't make a move. So who could snatch the heaven-reaching treasure map from her hands? Immediately, she took out a sheepskin scroll from her universe ring and opened it. As soon as I close this scroll, I will instantly forget the things on this scroll. Moreover, you don't know whether it's real or not, Fairy Luli said to Yixian. However, how could he know that Yixian had such a heaven-defying thing? Ding! Copy of the first heaven-reaching treasure map completed. After hearing the system's notification, Yixian couldn't help but laugh inwardly. The heaven-reaching treasure map that he gave old immortal Tianju had already been copied by him. That was the second heaven-reaching treasure map. And the one in front of him now was the first heaven-reaching treasure map. The system's notification meant that the heaven-reaching treasure map was real. Since it was confirmed, his task could be considered completed. He hurriedly passed this information to Caprice. Very good. I will quickly ask my father to send a betrothal gift to Taoist Ling Xiao. Caprice sent a voice transmission to Yixian. Yixian was a little confused and asked directly, "It's just a heaven-reaching treasure map. What's the use of it?" At present, the heaven-reaching treasure map has no other use, but whoever has the heaven-reaching treasure map has the right to speak. Caprice replied. In this regard, Yixian was too lazy to care. Anyway, his task could be considered completed. Senior, this junior has seen enough, Yixian said to Fairy Luli. Hearing this, Fairy Luli quickly closed the heaven-reaching treasure map and then put it back into her universe ring. At this time she had already reacted and asked, "This is what the white-haired dragon asked you to confirm, right?" Yixian nodded slightly. Although the heaven-reaching treasure map had been copied, it couldn't be copied. It could only be looked at, which was useless. Humph. Fairy Luli was very displeased. Originally, her father didn't know about the heaven-reaching treasure map, but now she could only take the initiative to report it, lest Caprice beat her to it. What Caprice said was indeed the truth, and Fairy Luli had already confirmed it from her father. Although the betrothal gifts had not been given, Taoist Ling Xiao had really agreed. This toad, I'll beat you back to your original form later, Fairy Luli said in her heart. Then her gaze fell on Yixian again. I'll have someone send those things to you later. However, if you use ordinary glass to cultivate the treasure body of colored glass, you can only cultivate to the 6th level. After that, you will need to use supreme grade treasures, which I don't have now. Yixian nodded slightly, indifferent to this. Then, another female knight led him out of the colored glass holy temple and arranged a place for him to stay. Now, all he had to do was wait quietly for the big gift package to be delivered. TSK, it hasn't been long since I came to the Penglai Demon Clan, but I've already improved so quickly. Once my realm increases, the successor of the Emperor of Death and the Prince of Netherworld will have to scram. Yixian was very excited at this moment. Soon the female knight returned with the universe ring and handed it to Yixian. After Yixian checked the universe ring, he couldn't help but shudder. The things in this universe ring were simply beyond his imagination. However, he didn't devour them immediately, because he still had to plan. In the Penglai Divine Land, itinerant immortal experts generally wouldn't make a move. Once they did, they would definitely be punished by the heavenly Tao, which would result in serious injuries or death. As such, the fight for the Divine Leader's token this time mainly relied on experts at the peak of the 9th level of the Ascension Realm. The successor of the Emperor of Death, the Prince of Netherworld, the Monk One Thought, and the Platinum Holy Light Dragon Caprice all had the strength to pass the tribulation, but they suppressed it to the peak of the 9th level of the Ascension Realm, so their battle strength was very strong. Chapter 1627. Although Fairy Luli asked for Yixian's help, if he obtained the Sacred Leader token, wouldn't Fairy Luli owe him a favor? Itinerant immortals can't take action, but I wonder if Wei Zhenqian can, Yixian thought to himself. However, the old tree was extremely suitable for snatching the Sacred Leader token, so he was a little hesitant. If he broke through to Ascension Realm level 9, the old tree, Ghost Dome Great Emperor, and Wei Zhenqian would all become itinerant immortals. If he changed the distribution method, then he could have one itinerant immortal battle force, and the other two could stay at Ascension Realm level 9. Alright, that's it. After thinking for a while, Yixian made a decision and began to devour the fire attribute treasures, as well as the corpses of the Ascension beasts. Ding! Host has broken through. Current level is Ascension Realm Level 2. Ding! Spirit of Ashes has broken through. Current level is Ascension Realm Level 4. Ding! Host has broken through. Current level is Ascension Realm Level 3. Ding! Spirit of Ashes has broken through. Current level is Ascension Realm Level 5. Ding! Host has broken through. Current level is Ascension Realm Level 4. Ding! Spirit of Ashes has broken through. Current level is Ascension Realm Level 6. Ding! Host has broken through. Current level is Ascension Realm Level 5. Ding! Spirit of Ashes has broken through. Current level is Ascension Realm Level 7. Ding! Host has broken through. Current level is Ascension Realm Level 6. Ding! Spirit of Ashes has broken through. Current level is Ascension Realm Level 9. System notifications rang out one after another. Yixian's plan was to first push the old tree to the peak of Ascension Realm Level 9. That way, the old tree would no longer have any restrictions. Then she would devour ores and the like to level up, because this way the old tree would not gain any experience points. However, at this moment, ding! Host has devoured the 9-dragon thunder flame. Ding! Spirit of Ashes has mutated. Spirit of Ashes has mutated into Ashes of Thunder Fire. These two system notifications caught Yixian off guard. There were many ways to upgrade the old tree. For example, the corpse of a heavenly beast, a heavenly treasure of the fire attribute, or even a heavenly flame. There was a dragon-shaped heavenly flame in the interspatial ring. It was the 9-dragon thunder flame, ranked 3rd on the heavenly flame list. It was this 9-dragon thunder flame that caused the old tree to mutate. F***ck, what a pleasant surprise. Yixian was shocked and quickly checked the new attributes of the old tree. Spirit of Ashes' name had been changed to Ember of Thunderfire, and the 3 skills of the old tree had all changed. The Flaming Sun Rope turned into the 9 Dragons Thunder Astral Chain, the Blazing Fire Dome turned into the 9 Dragons Thunder Fire Dome, and the remaining flames turned into the 9 Dragons Thunder Flash. Apart from that, there was also another big move, 9 Dragons Sky Roaring Strike. This move had a cooldown of 1 day. Haha, I've made a profit. I've made a huge profit. Yixian's eyes flickered with excitement. He originally only wanted the old tree to be upgraded to Heaven Ascension Stage 9, but he didn't expect such a surprise. He immediately ordered the old tree to fight the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhantian in the planting space. Remnant Flame could originally split into 2 clones, but this new 9 Dragons Thunder Flash allowed him to create 9 clones. This could confuse others and at the same time increase his speed and range. The first attack power had also increased from 30% to 50%. Most importantly, the old tree's attack was mixed with the lightning attribute, which had a paralyzing effect. He only needed 1 punch to turn the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhantian into pieces. Of course, the old tree was currently in Heaven Ascension Stage 9, 6 levels higher than the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhantian. It was normal for him to kill them instantly. As the other 3 skills all had cooldowns, Yixian didn't let the old tree use them for the time being. Previously, the old tree had always been 2 levels higher than Yixian. Now that he had poured all his resources into him, he was 3 levels higher than Yixian. Yixian and the old tree had a contract that guaranteed their levels. Therefore, the old tree's level wouldn't be lower than Yixian, but it also wouldn't exceed Yixian by 3 levels. As long as Yixian didn't break through to Heaven Ascension Stage 7, the old tree would at most be at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9, and wouldn't break through to Loose Immortal. Therefore, Yixian once again devoured some fire attribute heavenly treasures, and the old tree successfully broke through to the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. After all, he had more than doubled his growth. At this time, Yixian was only in the middle of Heaven Ascension Stage 6. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect this old man to reach the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. Truly unexpected. The old tree was even more excited than Yixian. Thinking back, he was only a wish fulfillment realm devil tree battle soldier. After following Yixian, he broke through to the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage. Then, the next step would be to become a loose immortal. Old tree, I'm going to snatch that holy leader token, so don't undergo your tribulation for now, Yixian quickly reminded. No problem. I'll definitely get that holy leader token. The old tree was full of confidence. After all, he was now at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. Even facing Lin Guangyao, who had the colored glazed treasure body, the old tree was confident that he could send him flying with a punch. The first step had been completed, so the next step was the second. Ghost Dome Great Emperor Wei Zhentian, it's your turn now. After saying this, Yi Xian began to devour the ores and weapons. Ding! Host has broken through. Current Heaven Ascension Stage 7. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. Current Heaven Ascension Stage 4. Ding! Ghost Dome Great Emperor has broken through. Current Heaven Ascension Stage 4. Ding! Host has broken through. Current Heaven Ascension Stage 8. Ding! Wei Zhentian has broken through. Current Heaven Ascension Stage 9. Ding! Ghost Dome Great Emperor has broken through. Current Heaven Ascension Stage 9. After Yi Xian devoured a large amount of ores and materials, Wei Zhentian and Ghost Dome Great Emperor had finally reached the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. At this moment, Yi Xian was thinking whether to continue devouring. The peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9 was just a step away from becoming a rogue immortal. He just didn't know if Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian could successfully break through to the rogue immortal realm. Old Tree is now at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian are also at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. If the three of them help me, the others won't be able to defeat me. Yi Xian thought inwardly. However, he was still hesitating. He wanted Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian to break through directly because Wei Zhentian was a weapon. He didn't know if weapons would be punished by the heavens if they attacked in Penglai Divine Land. It's better to be cautious. I'll let them stay at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. Yi Xian decided to give up. Anyway, with the strength of the four of them, they could probably do whatever they wanted in the entire Penglai Divine Land. As long as the rogue immortals didn't interfere, they were almost invincible. Although Yi Xian hadn't reached Heaven Ascension Stage 9 yet, he didn't care. With his current strength, he had the confidence to fight alone. Chapter 1628. In the planting space, the mutated old tree was already fighting with the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian. One had to admit that the mutated old tree was extremely powerful. He had no problem fighting against two opponents at the same time. Previously, he was only stronger than Wei Zhentian and weaker than the Ghost Dome Great Emperor when they were at the same level. Now, he was even stronger than the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian combined. Ha ha ha, try this. The old tree looked at the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian who were charging towards him. Suddenly, he threw out 9 lightning fire chains. This was the Lightning Fire Ember's new skill, the 9 Dragon Lightning Chain. There was a total of 9 chains that were locked onto the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian. The two of them couldn't break free in a short time. The 9 Dragon Lightning Chain had a paralyzing effect, but it didn't have much effect on the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the old tree suddenly turned into 9 dragon shadows and charged towards the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian. 9 Dragon Sky Roaring Strike. Rumble. The 9 dragon shadows hit the Ghost Dome Great Emperor. Immediately, the sky was filled with lightning, followed by a loud rumbling sound. This was considered one of the old tree's ultimate moves. The power of this attack wasn't small. Even Wei Zhentian and the Ghost Dome Great Emperor couldn't block it completely. Ding! The Ghost Dome Great Emperor is dead. Ding! The Ghost Dome Great Emperor is revived. There was a difference between the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian. The latter was made of metal, while the Ghost Dome Great Emperor was just a skeleton under the armor. Under the 9 Dragon Sky Roaring Strike, the Ghost Dome Great Emperor was killed instantly. Of course, if that attack had landed on Wei Zhentian, he probably wouldn't have been able to block it. That 9 Dragon Lightning Flame is really a blessing. Yi Xian couldn't help but think in his heart. The old tree had devoured at least 40 types of mysterious flames. However, none of them could make him mutate. Coincidentally, Fairy Luli gave him a 9 Dragon Lightning Flame. He was really lucky. If that wasn't the case, the old tree would still be the Spirit of Ash, and its combat power would only be slightly stronger than Wei Zhentian. With these 3 great generals present, it could be said that Yi Xian was determined to obtain this Holy Lord Command token. Unfortunately, he had already promised Fairy Luli, otherwise, he would have definitely taken this Holy Lord Command token for himself. Very quickly 3 days passed. During these 3 days, Yixian did not step out of the house. Otherwise he might scare Fairy Luli to death. Breaking through from the first tier of the Heavenly Completion Realm to the 8th tier of the Heavenly Completion Realm in a single day was too terrifying. Although this was also the case for willfulness, he had once secluded himself in the Life Saint sect. He had merely suppressed his cultivation. As for Yixian, he had truly broken through. Yixian, how's your cultivation coming along? At noon on the 3rd day, Fairy Luli couldn't help but ask about the situation. Don't worry. I will definitely get the Holy Leader's token this time. Yixian did not directly say that he had broken through to the 8th tier of the Heavenly Ascension state. Alright. When Fairy Luli heard this, she was overjoyed. However, she did not disturb Yixian. After all, this period of time was very crucial. Time passed little by little. The outside world was calm and peaceful. However, on the 7th day, Yixian, just now the Penglai Demon tribe sent news that the Demon Emperor's successor has successfully refined half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance. Tomorrow we will head directly to the Penglai Demon tribe. Fairy Luli transmitted to Yixian. Have we arrived? Yixian narrowed his eyes slightly. Although this half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance was not bad, compared to the Holy Leader's token, it was a little insignificant. Although the Glazed Knights also had their eyes on this Holy Leader's token, they knew that no matter who the Holy Leader's token fell into, it could not fall into the hands of the Evil Dao Holy Ground. Otherwise, when the Evil Dao Holy Ground's rogue immortals refined the Holy Leader's token, the Penglai Holy Ground's forces would be massacred. After all, the rogue immortals who refined the Holy Leader's token could fight in the Penglai Holy Ground without being punished by the Heavenly Dao. At that time, who would be able to fight against them? How's your cultivation going now? Fairy Luli asked curiously. Ascension Realm LV8. Yixian replied. What? This answer shocked Fairy Luli. Sure enough, she had not misjudged him. In just 7 days, Yixian had broken through from Ascension Realm LV1 to Ascension Realm LV8. It was simply inconceivable. If she had not seen Yixian before, she would have thought that he was the reincarnation of an immortal. Come to the Glazed Holy Temple, Fairy Luli said to Yixian. Immediately, Yixian headed to the Glazed Holy Temple. He knew that Fairy Luli wanted to see his realm with her own eyes. When he arrived, he found that there were already 3 people sitting inside. One of them was Fairy Luli, while the other 2 were one thought monk from the Buddhist Holy Ground and Lin Guangyao, the commander of the 5th Army. In fact, before Yixian arrived at the Glazed Holy Temple, the 3 of them had already felt the aura in Yixian's body. Ascension Realm LV8. Sure enough, he was Ascension Realm LV8. The 3 of them had already widened their eyes in shock. Moreover, Fairy Luli also sensed that Yixian had already cultivated the Glazed Treasure Body to the 6th stage, the same as Lin Guangyao. It's truly inconceivable. He actually broke through to Ascension Realm LV8. Lin Guangyao said in disbelief. Could this benefactor be the reincarnation of an immortal, but his inherited memories have yet to awaken? One thought monk could not help but ask. Greetings to the 3 seniors. Yixian greeted them respectfully. Not even 100 years old, yet you've cultivated to such a level. Even the Life Saint sect master cannot compare to your talent. Fairy Luli also sighed in amazement. The Life Saint sect master had only spent 200 years to become a loose immortal. This was a legend. In this world, only Yixian could compare to him. However, so what if his talent was good? It could not help with the current situation. Yixian, you and Yin Yuan will fight, Fairy Luli suddenly said. Afterwards, a female knight rushed into the Glazed Holy Temple. She was Fairy Luli's eldest disciple, a gold knight at Ascension Realm LV9. Testing my strength? Fine. The corner of Yixian's mouth slightly curled up. He turned around and looked at the hot female knight in front of him. Fairy Luli had paid a great price to push him to his current realm. If his battle prowess was insufficient, he would not be able to participate in the upcoming battle for the Holy Lord's token. Therefore, Yixian had to defeat this Yin Yuan. Come. Yixian clenched his fists and said to Yin Yuan. Excuse me. After Yin Yuan let out a low shout, her aura immediately increased by several times. She directly charged towards Yixian with her bare hands. Yin Yuan did not use any ability with this punch, but it tore open a long spatial crack. Even without the spatial crack, this punch was enough to instantly kill an ordinary Ascension Realm LV9 martial artist. This was the strength of a genius. Chapter 1629. Bang! Yi Xian casually threw out a punch, which collided with Yin Yuan's delicate fist. When the two true qis collided, a shockwave immediately swept out. At this moment, Yi Xian's fist seemed to have hit a piece of tofu. After all, his current physique was more than 100 times stronger than before. Crack! With a crisp sound, Yin Yuan's arm was fractured, and she was blasted out of the lapis lazuli holy temple, challenging someone of a higher rank victory. Yin Yuan, who was sent flying by Yi Xian, opened her eyes wide. She couldn't believe that she had been defeated. However, this was not the end. Bang! Yin Yuan quickly stabilized her body, and then rushed toward Yi Xian again. This time she used her left hand. Heaven-piercing magic? Lapis gold-shattering fist. This move could be considered her strongest attack. However, Yi Xian also knew how to use it. Ding! Lapis gold-shattering fist copied successfully. The moment Yi Xian made his move, Fairy Luli was shocked again. This was because she didn't teach Yi Xian this magic. How did Yi Xian learn it? This brat was indeed extraordinary. Boom! This time there was no suspense. Yin Yuan was sent flying again. Her left hand was even more miserable than her right hand. All the bones were shattered and blood flowed out. It had to be said that Yi Xian really didn't know how to show mercy to women. With just 2 punches he had crippled this hot female knight. However, this kind of injury was nothing to an expert of reaching Heaven Realm LV9. He could recover quickly. Not bad. Amir reaching Heaven Realm LV8 easily defeated Yin Yuan. Your strength is not bad. However, Yin Yuan's strength is at most on par with Commander Mali. If you want to participate in the next battle, you are not qualified. Fairy Luli said to Yi Xian. In that case, please enlighten me, Legion Commander. Yi Xian suddenly turned around and cupped his fist toward Lin Guangyao. If he wanted to gain Fairy Luli's approval, he could only fight with Lin Guangyao. Good. Hearing this, Lin Guangyao immediately shouted and stood up. Currently in the Glazed Knights, apart from Fairy Luli and the 4 loose immortal rank commanders, there was no one else who could match them. As long as Yi Xian was qualified to fight him, the Glazed Knights would have one more powerful helper. Although Lin Guangyao was a realm higher than Yi Xian, he didn't dare to be careless when he saw how confident Yi Xian was. Yi Xian, come on. Lin Guangyao clenched his fists and said to Yi Xian. All right. Without saying a word, Yi Xian turned into a shadow and rushed towards Lin Guangyao. This speed was beyond Lin Guangyao's imagination. One had to know that Yi Xian's shadow steps had been upgraded to 1000 Extinction Flash, and could be used in battle. This was a very practical skill. Although it consumed a lot of vital qi, he still had the immortal Phoenix bloodline to support it. After the triple chain shock, the power that fell on Lin Guangyao was not that great. Even so, this Nihility Flame Sword Wave had directly injured Lin Guangyao, who had cultivated the Glazed Treasure Body Stage 6. If they continued to fight, Lin Guangyao would definitely lose. This attack had already determined the winner, so Glazed Fairy said, That's enough, stop. There were more important things to do next. It wouldn't be good if he was injured here. If we continue to fight, I don't think I'm your match. You should still have a trump card that you haven't used, right? Lin Guangyao quickly healed his injuries and said to Yi Xian. Yes. Yi Xian nodded without any modesty. He had many trump cards. The Old Tree, the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian. Any one of them could probably fight with Lin Guangyao. In addition, he still had the Slaughter Mark skill that he hadn't used, and he didn't use the Bladestorm skill. With this strength he could probably fight with a rogue immortal, let alone Lin Guangyao. Very good, I didn't misjudge you. Glazed Fairy's cold face couldn't help but reveal a smile. She said, But you're only at Ascension Stage 8 now. Can you still improve? Chapter 1630. The heavenly treasures that Fairy Luli gave Yi Xian were enough to create several peak Ascension Stage LV9 experts. Now, if she wanted to raise him from Ascension Stage LV8 to peak Ascension Stage LV9, she would need several times more heavenly treasures than before. However, he knew that Fairy Luli would be willing to part with them. Okay, I'll give them to you. Fairy Luli gritted her teeth and threw out several rare treasures from her cosmos ring. These were priceless treasures that even Lin Guangyao would be envious of. This time Fairy Luli really put in a lot of effort. This time I'm betting on you. If you fail, you have to pay me back 10 times. Fairy Luli suddenly said stingily. Okay. Yixian didn't bargain. He could easily defeat Lin Guangyao now, so his strength was probably at the top. If he broke through again, who could fight him? Don't be careless. Although your strength is above Lin Guangyao, there's still a gap between you and those top geniuses. Those people have the ability to pass the immortal tribulation, but they've been suppressing their realms. Their cultivation is extremely terrifying, even comparable to loose immortals. You have to pay special attention to the two troublesome people from the Holy Land of Death and the Holy Land of Nether. Fairy Luli reminded. Although Lin Guangyao was peak ascension stage LV9, his cultivation time was too short, and the three evil Holy Lands probably sent out 10,000-year-old monsters. If one really wanted to compare, Lin Guangyao's strength could only be ranked in the third tier. The second tier were those who had lived for a long time, such as the three evil Holy Lands experts. As for the first tier, it was Platinum Holy Light Dragon Capricious, Death Emperor's successor Jianyi, Prince of Netherworld, and so on. Although they weren't as old as the second tier, they had great backgrounds and weren't easy to deal with. For example, Platinum Holy Light Dragon Capricious. If he hadn't been beaten back to his original form, he would be a loose immortal expert. Although these people were troublesome, Yixian wasn't afraid. After all, he had a few helpers. When he used his ultimate move, even a loose immortal would be defeated. He had surpassed Lin Guangyao before breaking through, and was probably in the second tier. If he broke through to Ascension Stage LV9, he would definitely be in the first tier. Ding! The host has made a breakthrough. The host is now in Heaven Ascension Stage LV9. In an instant, Yixian's aura skyrocketed to the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage Level 9. Ding! The host has reached the peak of Connecting Heaven State Level 9. Ding! Host has met the Immortal Tribulation requirements. Ding! The current success rate of the host's tribulation is 95%. Another 3 system notifications rang out. 95% was already a very high success rate. Yixian estimated that as long as his 3 doppelgangers fused together and increased his strength by 20%, he would be able to successfully transcend the tribulation. However, even after successfully passing the tribulation, he still couldn't ascend to the immortal world because the passageway to the immortal world was closed. However, most of them had to start cultivating as itinerant immortals. Right now, there were still important matters to attend to. Thus, Yixian would not choose to undergo tribulation. He would first obtain the Holy Leader Medallion. He actually broke through from LV8 to the peak of LV9 in an instant. Truly. Fairy Luli and the others were so shocked that they were speechless. With your current realm, I'm afraid I can't even take a punch from you, Lin Guangyao said self-deprecatingly. He knew that Yixian's current strength should be in the first tier. He wasn't someone that he, who was in the third tier, could fight. Very good. With your help, the Glazed Knights have the ability to fight the Holy Land of Death and the Underworld Holy Land, Fairy Luli said to Yixian. Senior, don't worry. I have an 80% chance of obtaining the Holy Leader Medallion, Yixian said confidently. Good. Fairy Luli was very satisfied. Next, it would depend on whether Yixian could really obtain the Holy Leader Medallion. The next day, they would head to Penglai to discuss the battle plan. At that time, they would discuss how to deal with the evil Holy Land. Very soon a day had passed. The Glazed Knights had a teleportation array that led directly to Penglai. It was very convenient. The next day, Fairy Luli brought Lin Guangyao, Monk One Thought, and Yixian to Penglai. Whoosh! The teleportation array began to operate. Yixian was a little excited because Luo Luo was born in Penglai. However, she had just been born and hadn't unlocked her inherited memories. She probably wouldn't recognize him. At this time, the vision in front of him shook. Yixian's senses suddenly became stronger. Although Luo Luo was reborn, she still had a connection with Yixian. When Yixian landed, he sensed that Luo Luo was in the north. The distance was very close. However, there was already a group of demons waiting at the teleportation palace. Greetings, Fairy Luli. An old man came up and said, I'm Yao Shan. I've been waiting here for a long time. The other forces have arrived? Fairy Luli asked directly. Yes. Yao Shan nodded. Although it wasn't the appointed time, the glazed knights, who had the teleportation array, were the last to arrive. This made them feel a little helpless. Immediately, Yao Shan led Fairy Luli and the other 3 to the conference hall. There were a total of 4 forces participating in the war conference. In addition to the Penglai demons, there was also Tianju Palace, Glazed Knights and Life Sacred Land. Therefore, they were a 4-way alliance. Soon Yixian and the other 3 were brought to the conference hall. At this time there were already many people in the conference hall. Moreover, they weren't weak. The weakest was at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. One of them was even a rogue immortal expert. This person sat at the head of the table, and was an acquaintance of Yixian. He was Old Immortal Tianju. Although he had already guessed it, after seeing Old Immortal Tianju's real body, Yixian couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Damn, this is a real hidden expert. When he wasn't a supremacy, he had already seen Old Immortal Tianju. Now, he was at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9, crossing the 3 sovereign disasters in Heaven Ascension Stage 9. No one would have thought that the mysterious person who appeared in the remote Blood Rock continent was actually a rogue immortal. Although the Old Immortal Tianju there was only a clone, it was still shocking enough. Yixian followed Fairy Luli into the conference hall, and immediately became the center of attention. Everyone had heard of Lin Guangyao. The one-thought monk's appearance and attire were rather eye-catching, so everyone recognized him. However, where did this stranger Yixian come from? At this moment, there was another acquaintance of Yixian in the conference hall. He was the Platinum Radiant Dragon, Headstrong. He had also come. Hey Yixian! When Headstrong saw Yixian, he immediately greeted him. Chapter 1631. Headstrong was an itinerant immortal previously, which was why he could recover to the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage Level 9 so quickly. However, Yixian had climbed up by himself. It was unbelievable that he could break through to the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage Level 9 in an instant. Headstrong carefully sized up Yixian. He estimated that Yixian's strength was probably not weaker than his. What a monster! At this time there was a young man beside Headstrong who was also at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage Level 9. He should be the chief disciple of the Life Saint sect, Run Feng. In addition, there was the number 1 genius of the Penglai demon race, Yao Tian, and Old Immortal Tianju's disciple, Lin Zhanhao. The geniuses of the Penglai demon race, Tianju Palace, Glazed Knights, Life Saint sect, and Buddhist sect were all present. Fairy Luli led Yixian and the other 2 and sat down. At this time, Old Immortal Tianju's gaze fell on Yixian and said, "You don't look surprised. It seems that you already know my identity." Hearing this, Fairy Luli was shocked. Everyone also turned to look at Yixian. "Greetings, senior." Yixian hurriedly stood up and greeted. "It's fine. I watched you grow from the Blood Rock continent to where you are today. There's no need to be restrained," Old Immortal Tianju said slowly. When he met Yixian back then, Yixian was fighting with the demon race. Later, he could not bear to see the demon race of the wasteland go extinct, so he stepped in to stop it. At that time, Yixian was only at the Void God realm. He was not even a supremacy. As soon as this was said, the surrounding people were surprised. Blood Rock continent? Isn't that the Demon Emperor's hometown? Yes, the Demon Emperor seems to be from the wasteland demon race of the Blood Rock continent. I didn't expect this young man to come from the same place as the Demon Emperor. However, that place is too barren. So Old Immortal Tianju only condensed an energy clone to guard that place. In the meeting hall, some demon race people were discussing in low voices. Yixian finally understood. The Demon Emperor that these demon race people were talking about was the Dragon Sparrow Fairy, Old Immortal Tianju's wife. Who would have thought that the Blood Rock continent actually produced such an awesome figure? We'll talk about the little fox later. Let's talk business first. After Old Immortal Tianju finished speaking, he couldn't help but look around and said, "This time our opponent's background is not small, everyone should know. There are quite a few 9th-tier Heaven Ascension realm experts from the various major powers who can participate, but in terms of top-tier battle prowess, I'm afraid that we're still inferior to them." That's right. As far as I know, the Evil Path Holy Land has brought a lot of experts, more than us, Fairy Luli said. The surrounding people couldn't help but size him up. The Emperor of Death's successor is one, the Prince of Netherworld is another, and the Platinum Holy Light Dragon is another. Although my Penglai demon clans Yaotian and Tianju Palace's Lin Jianhao are not bad, they can't compare to them. An elder from the demon race said. They divided their strength into 3 tiers. The first tier consisted of the Wayward Three, the second tier consisted of Yaotian and Lin Jianhao, and the third tier consisted of people like Lin Guangyao. If the 3 echelons were added together, they would be able to gather 30 people. But this time the Corrupt Path Holy Lands had sent at least 50 people, so it was a bit difficult to handle. Yi Xian sat there silently, listening to the discussions of the others, and sneered in his heart. His strength was definitely in the first tier. When the time came to join forces with Wayward, they could fight the Emperor of Death's successor, and the Prince of Netherworld. In addition, the Old Tree, Ghost Dome Great Emperor, and Wei Zhenqian were all 9th tier Heaven Ascension Realm experts. Although their strength wasn't considered top tier, other than Wei Zhenqian, the Old Tree and Ghost Dome Great Emperor should be in the 2nd tier. Most importantly, Yi Xian still had the planting space. Even if he encountered the Emperor of Death's successor, as long as he caught him off guard, he might be able to kill him in an instant. Yi Xian, on the other hand, didn't really listen to this meeting. It was nothing more than some strategic deployments, team formation, and so on. In any case, everyone thought that he was on the same level as Lin Guangyao, so they didn't take him to heart. Kid, you want to help that little girl Luli get the Holy Leader token? Wayward suddenly sent a voice transmission to Yi Xian. Yes. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'm still in the 1st tier of the Heaven Ascension realm. In order to help me break through, she also paid a huge price. Yi Xian replied. You scammer. If you had said so earlier, I would have just given it to you. Then I could have used the Holy Leader token to force a marriage. Wayward was helpless. Didn't you want the Heavenspan treasure map? Yi Xian asked in shock. The Heavenspan treasure map is what my Life Saint sect needs, but I've changed my mind. Now that we're together, it'll be much more convenient for us to explore the passage to the immortal world in the future. Wayward raised his eyebrows and said, Now that you've come out of nowhere, you've made things a lot more difficult for me. However, if we really meet, I won't show you any mercy. Haha. Then let's fight when the time comes. Yi Xian couldn't help but laugh in response. Since fusing with the immortal slaying bloodline, he hadn't had a good fight. He couldn't even figure out the power of those skills. This Wayward should be a good opponent. After all, he was once a loose immortal. Okay, but I suggest we first join hands to deal with the Holy Land of Death and the Netherworld Holy Land. These 2 forces killed many of my Life Saint sect's disciples, Wayward said. Okay. Yi Xian nodded. Since they were able to hold a meeting here, it meant that they were temporarily on the same side. They would first send the Evil Path Holy Land flying, and then decide the owner of the Holy Leader token. The battle meeting had been going on for a long time, and now it had reached its climax. Suddenly, Fairy Luli asked, That Demon Emperor's successor, we haven't seen him yet. Can he come out and meet us? The Demon Emperor's successor had already refined half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance. He wanted to rely on this half of the inheritance to find the other half, so he was the most important person this time. Okay. Old Immortal Tianju nodded and immediately sent a voice transmission to someone. At the same time, he glanced at Yi Xian sitting next to Fairy Luli. Yi Xian felt a little strange, but in the next moment, his body suddenly trembled. He felt that a familiar aura was quickly approaching the conference hall. Could it be? Yi Xian couldn't believe it and stared blankly at the entrance of the conference hall. Soon, a petite voice walked in under the protection of 2 9th-layer Heaven Ascension Realm experts. It was a little girl who seemed to be about 6 years old. Her appearance shocked everyone present. Could it be that this little girl was the Demon Emperor's successor? After everyone felt the aura on her body, they were able to confirm it. This little girl was actually at the peak of 9th-layer Heaven Ascension Realm. However, at this time the most shocked person was Yi Xian because there was some kind of connection between him and this little girl. Luluo. Chapter 1632. How is this possible? How long has it been since Luluo reincarnated? How is this possible? Yi Xian opened his eyes wide. He was certain that this little girl was Luoluo's reincarnation because he had a master and servant blood contract with Luoluo in his previous life. Even if she reincarnated, it was not broken. However, Yixian did not understand how Luoluo had grown so much in just a month's time. Could it be that she was directly born in a body? Or did she use some method to accelerate her growth? The little girl walked in front of Yixian and used her big eyes to size up Yixian. She asked curiously, "Big brother, why is there something strange between us?" This? Yixian did not know how to explain. "Luoluo, come here first." Old immortal Tianju suddenly shouted. Yixian was in disbelief. He did not expect that after Luoluo reincarnated, not only did she enter the monster clan, she was also called Luoluo. Of course, this could be the name that old immortal Tianju changed for her. When Luoluo heard old immortal Tianju's voice, she glanced at Yixian. Then she ran over and intimately sat on old immortal Tianju's lap. Then she called out, "Grandfather." This time Yixian was shocked again. Grandfather? Luoluo was actually born as old immortal Tianju's granddaughter? Don't misunderstand. I only recognized her as my god-granddaughter. She was born in the Monster Fox clan and obtained the Monster Emperor's inheritance. Old immortal Tianju transmitted to Yixian. I see. Yixian nodded silently. This matter was not important. However, he did not expect Luoluo to be the Monster Emperor's successor. This was too much of a coincidence. This meant that when the time came, Luoluo would not be looking for the other half of the inheritance. Luoluo obtained the Monster Emperor's inheritance. When the time comes, she will lead us to find the other half of the Monster Emperor's inheritance and the Holy Lord token. Old immortal Tianju said to everyone. Why is it a child? Yixian asked curiously. Old immortal Tianju explained. She has an extremely high compatibility with the inheritance my wife left behind. After receiving the inheritance, she grew up to look like a 6-year-old child. In fact, she was only born a month ago. Although they didn't know what was going on, they weren't very interested in this topic. Then, will she also join the battle? Fairy Luli asked. Although she has only been born for slightly more than a month, I have already helped her condense a soul seed. Furthermore, it is in my hands. As for fighting strength, it is not any weaker than Yao Tian. Therefore, when the time comes, I will let her form a small team of 3 with Yao Tian and Lin Zhanhao. Old immortal Tianju said. Yao Tian and Lin Zhanhao were the second echelon in terms of combat strength. If Luoluo's strength was similar to Yao Tian's, then they would have one more general. Most importantly, they had the soul seed, which would make them much safer. In fact, Yixian knew that the second half of the sentence was meant for him. If he did not have a soul seed, he would definitely object. In that case, when will we depart? Fairy Luli continued to ask. Those few evil holy lands are probably already prepared. Moreover, they have found a powerful inheritor of the Eye of Space. Even if we leave through the void, we won't be able to hide from them. Therefore, we will depart tomorrow, old immortal Tianju replied. Luoluo was the key to finding the other half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance. Moreover, she was at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. Enemies could easily find her. Most importantly, the Demon Emperor's inheritance was near the Penglai Demon tribe. If it was somewhere else, they could still use the teleportation formation to leave. Alright, tomorrow it is. After Fairy Luli finished speaking, she directly stood up and left with Lin Guangyao and Yin Yan. As for Yixian, he stayed here. Life Saint Sex side sent Yixian and Renfeng, so they could stay in the Penglai Demon tribe. As for the Penglai Demon tribe, Tianjua Palace, and the Glazed Knights, they had to dispatch a large number of experts, and all of them had to be at Heaven Ascension Stage 9. In the Glazed Knights, there were many people at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. Almost all the Platinum Knights were at this realm. However, they were too weak compared to Lin Guangyao, so Fairy Luli only brought some elites, all of whom were ranked in the top 10. These 10 Platinum Knights, although their individual strength was not as strong as Lin Guangyao, when added together, they could be considered as 2 Lin Guangyao. As for the Penglai Demon tribe and Tianjua Palace, they each sent 10 peak Heaven Ascension Stage 9. The evil Holy Lands attached great importance to this Holy Lord's token battle, so they would send out even more experts. Fairy Luli went back to make arrangements, while Yixian stayed in the Penglai Demon tribe. At this time, only old immortal Tianju, Luoluo, and Yixian were left in the assembly hall. Grandfather, why do I have a strange feeling with this big brother? Luoluo asked, puzzled. Although she was only born a month ago, her intelligence was already mature. After all, she was at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. You are actually the reincarnation of his sister, but you have not unlocked your inherited memory, so you do not recognize him. Old Immortal Tianju said kindly. Then grandfather, why don't you help me unlock it? Luoluo asked strangely. Yixian also found it strange. The heaven-loathing fox bloodline in Luoluo's body might have been suppressed, so why did Old Immortal Tianju not unlock her inherited memory? Old Immortal Tianju paused, then looked at Yixian and said, actually, the heaven-loathing fox bloodline in her body is still there. If she forcefully unlocks her inherited memory, I am afraid it will lead to a heavenly tribulation. What? It didn't succeed? Yixian opened his eyes wide. Previously, the fox ancestor told him that there was a 90% chance. Could it be that his luck was bad and he encountered that 10% chance? Maybe it's because Luoluo was born in the Fox Demon clan. Our demon clan is actually the ancestor of the Beast clan, so it might have activated the bloodline in her body. Old Immortal Tianju said. The Beast clan was the descendant of humans and Heaven Ascension beasts. As for the demon clan, it was born after the Heaven Ascension beasts cultivated. Therefore, Luoluo was born in the demon clan. Her luck was really bad. Senior, what should we do? Yixian could not help but raise his eyebrows and ask. If she obtains the other half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance, then she might be able to unlock her inherited memory. However, if she has the Sacred Leader token, then she might be able to pass the heavenly tribulation. Old Immortal Tianju replied. Sacred Leader token. Yixian frowned. The person who refined the Sacred Leader token would become the master of the Penglai Divine Land. At that time, if Luoluo wanted to pass the heavenly tribulation, then her safety would be greatly increased. However, there was only one Sacred Leader token, and he had promised Fairy Luli to help her get the Sacred Leader token. Chapter 1633. Thank you, Senior. Yixian hurriedly expressed his gratitude. However, Luoluo's matter was his matter, so he had to obtain the Holy Leader's token and help Luoluo undergo her heavenly tribulation first. Although Fairy Glaze also wanted the Holy Leader's token, it shouldn't be a problem if it was delayed. Luoluo obtained my wife's inheritance, so we can be considered to be fated. However, many people from the evil sacred grounds have come this time. Just the peak 9th layer Heaven Ascension cultivators number more than 50, and they have a few more peak combatants than us, Old Immortal Tianju reminded. No matter what, I won't let them obtain it. Yixian was very confident. Most importantly, if the evil sacred grounds obtain the Holy Leader's token, then the Penglai sacred ground would be their world in the future. At that time there would be no place for them here. After all, the entrance to the secret realm of the Bloodstone continent was in the Penglai sacred ground. Tomorrow, they would set off to search for the other half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance. However, this time Yixian made another decision. He sent his second clone in the eastern continent to the center of the Penglai sacred ground. Then, he would take advantage of the time when the experts of the evil sacred grounds were mobilizing to uproot all the evil sacred grounds. Although his second clone's battle prowess was insufficient without fusing, the Old Tree, Ghost Dome Emperor, and Wei Zhenqian were all waiting in the planting space. If he couldn't destroy them, then Yixian might as well commit suicide. Very quickly another day had passed. On the second day, the Glazed Knights in Tianju Palace's team arrived. Including the Penglai demons, there were a total of 30 peak 9th layer Heaven Ascension cultivators, not including Yixian and the other supercombatants. The Penglai demons supercombatants were the number 1 genius of the demons, Yao Tian and Luoluo. The Tianju Palace's supercombatants were Old Immortal Tianju's disciple, Lin Zhanhao. The Glazed Knights supercombatants were One Thought Monk and Yixian. The Life Saint sex members were the Platinum Radiant Dragon Headstrong and Chief Disciple, Ran Feng. Among them, the Glazed Knights Lin Guangyao cultivated for a short time. Even if he cultivated the Glazed Treasure Body, his strength was about the same as the peak 9th layer Heaven Ascension cultivators of the Penglai demons in Tianju Palace, so the Glazed Knights were the weakest. Of course, everyone believed he was only a 3rd echelon Heaven Ascension cultivator, Tianju Palace's team. I have to guard the Penglai demon race, so I will lead the team this time. A rogue immortal's spiritual sense is much stronger than a heaven ascension realm's. We should try our best to avoid the scouts of the evil path Holy Lands, said old immortal Tianju. Yi Tian 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 Tian, Tian Tian Jna. Tian Yiju Tian. Old immortal Tianju, who was leading the team this time, was acting as a radar, allowing this team to avoid the eyes and ears of the evil path Holy Lands, and then find the Fiend Emperor's inheritance ground. He just didn't know if things would be as simple as he imagined. As for the Penglai demon race, the one in charge was an itinerant immortal from the Luguang Holy Lands Tianju Palace. He was also old immortal Tianju's disciple and Lin Zhanhao's senior. The space of the Penglai demon clan was relatively stable. It was not a problem for itinerant immortals to make a move. They would not incur the punishment of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, even if the people from the evil Tao Holy Lands came, they would still die. At this time, old immortal Tianju and Fairy Luli had already led their team away from the Penglai demon clan. There were many eyes and ears of the evil Holy Lands around the Penglai demon race. However, this time they were led by two loose immortals. They easily avoided these spies. After Luo had refined half of the demon emperor's inheritance, she had a feeling that it was coming from the northeast. Hence they were heading in that direction. Although their speed was not fast, it was very safe. Even now, the corrupt path Holy Land spies had not discovered them. However, in the end, paper couldn't wrap up fire. After all, the corrupt path Holy Land didn't only send heaven ascension experts this time. There were also loose immortals. Yo Tianju Luli, where are you in such a hurry to go? Suddenly a sarcastic voice rang out. Hearing this, old immortal Tianju and Fairy Luli's expressions changed. They looked up and saw a scarlet figure flying over from the horizon. This person had red hair and wore red battle armor. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of everyone. Qi Shui, we were discovered by you. Old immortal Tianju narrowed his eyes and said slowly. This red-haired middle-aged man was a loose immortal from the Blood Fiend Holy Land. His name was Qi Shui. TSK, with so many people involved, how could we not discover you? You guys are so direct. I thought you would use a diversion tactic. I didn't expect you to act directly. That little girl should be the one who obtained half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance, right? Immortal Qi Shui grinned and his gaze fell on Luo. At the same time, he took out a signal flare in his hand and released it. No one stopped him. After all, it could only be stopped for a while. As long as immortal Qi Shui went further away, he could still inform the others. Ignore him, let's go. Old immortal Tianju snorted and continued to lead the way. Since they had already been discovered, then even if they used their full speed to rush over, as long as they arrived 5 minutes earlier than the corrupt path Holy Land, it was still worth it. The weakest person on Yixian's side was at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. Their speed was extremely fast. At full speed, they arrived at their destination in less than a minute. Grandpa, I feel it. The other half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance is below, Luo said to old immortal Tianju. Before old immortal Tianju could speak, immortal Qi Shui said in surprise, I didn't expect it to be the place where I was resting. The Dragon Sparrow Fairy is indeed an array expert. Even my spiritual sense couldn't find the entrance. When old immortal Tianju and the others heard this, they were slightly surprised, but they didn't say anything. Move, find the entrance to the secret realm. Old immortal Tianju immediately ordered. In an instant, everyone swooped down and began to destroy the mountain. A few minutes later, someone found the defensive array set up by the Dragon Sparrow Fairy. This defensive array was very small, not much bigger than a head. It was beyond everyone's expectations. Let me do it. Old immortal Tianju's withered hands quickly formed a seal, and then hit the defensive array. In an instant the array was broken. The weakest person on the scene was at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. They were very sensitive to spatial fluctuations. This defensive array was mainly used to cover a certain place in the array. After the array was broken, a wisp of spatial fluctuation was immediately detected by everyone. There was a fingernail-sized spatial crack in the defensive array. This spatial crack couldn't be repaired and existed between heaven and earth. Immediately, the experts closest to the spatial crack used space-breaking techniques to open this spatial crack. It was big enough for several people to pass through. Chapter 1634. Quick, go in. Old immortal Tianju quickly ordered. Dozens of people quickly gathered, and then directly passed through the spatial crack, arriving in front of a sea of flowers. At this time there was a white light in front of the sea of flowers, blocking old immortal Tianju and Fairy Luli. Take advantage of the fact that the evil experts haven't arrived. Quickly go in, Fairy Luli urged. Yes. Everyone responded, and then directly passed through the white light, entering the sea of flowers. However, just as they entered, they completely lost the aura of others, and were actually teleported to different places. One by one they all scattered. Then 1 minute later, those evil experts all entered the land of inheritance. Although the heaven-earth yuan qi here is abundant, it's not in the Penglai divine land. It should be a small island hidden around the Penglai divine land. No wonder we couldn't find it. Immortal Qi Shui's eyes flickered. Don't talk nonsense, all of you go in. A man in black armor urged. Yes, my lord. These corrupt Holy Lands experts also quickly entered the white light path and were teleported away. Soon there were only a few people left outside the white light. In addition to old immortal Tianju, Fairy Luli and immortal Qi Shui, there were 6 loose immortals. 2 of them were from the Nibbling Bone Holy Land and the Evil Sun Holy Land, while the other 4 were from the Death Holy Land and the Netherworld Holy Land. Old immortal Tianju, did you see that? You're not even enough for my young master. An old man couldn't help but ridicule. He was a loose immortal from the Death Holy Land, and the young master he mentioned was the successor of the Death Emperor Simple. What a big tone. I'm afraid the successor of the Death Emperor will die twice in a row. Fairy Luli couldn't help but coldly snort. The successor of the Death Emperor had already been decided, but it was done by Platinum Holy Light Dragon. Otherwise, it would never have been Simple's turn. Fairy Luli's words were secretly ridiculing Simple's death. Luli, I advise you to disband your glazed knights as soon as possible. Otherwise, when you die under the loose immortal tribulation, they will be like a group of dragons without a leader. The old man ridiculed her again. After the last incident, Fairy Luli was also known by everyone. Her real name was Luli, and she was the youngest daughter of Taoist Ling Xiao. If we are talking about the loose immortal tribulation, you should be the first to arrive. I heard that you have been suppressing your tribulation for more than 300 years. What, is it very glorious to live an ignoble existence for more than 300 years? Fairy Luli mocked back. Humph! The old man was rendered speechless. As for the other 2 bodiless celestials from the Nether Saint Land, they remained silent. This time, the Netherworld Holy Land had invited the disciple of an expert. They were the most likely force to obtain the Holy Master token. At the same time, Yixian's second doppelganger also began its cleanup operation. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he was prepared to get rid of all the people from the evil sacred grounds stationed in the Penglai sacred land. I didn't expect them to scatter after passing through the white light. Yixian, who was in the Fey Emperor's land of inheritance, felt a little helpless. At this time he was in a sea of flowers. As far as the eye could see, there were no living creatures. However, this sea of flowers was not an ordinary place. The flowers under his feet emitted some white poisonous fog. Some caused people to fall into illusions while others caused people to fall asleep. Fortunately, Yixian had the bloodline of the immortal phoenix divine bloodline, so it did not have any effect on him. Moreover, there was a large amount of white fog in this sea of flowers that obstructed vision and spiritual sense. If Yixian did not have the Eye of Revelation, he would have easily gotten lost. Although we have entered the Fey Emperor's land of inheritance, the next step is to find the Fey Emperor's land of inheritance, Yixian thought to himself. Just now, Luoluo had entered this place with him, so Luoluo should have been separated from the others. Fortunately, there was still some distance between him and Luoluo, so he could clearly sense Luoluo's position. Not only that, but Luoluo was also the same. However, just as Yixian was flying through the sea of flowers toward the north where Luoluo was, a figure suddenly swept over. Immortal Eye, Eye of Revelation. Yixian focused his eyes and found that it was a person he did not know. He knew the 30 experts from the Glazed Knights, the Penglai Demon Clan, and the Tianjua Palace, but this person was wearing a black robe and had a very unfamiliar face, so he must be an enemy. Not on the list. Looks like you are a piece of trash. Die. The black-robed man's face turned cold, and he directly launched an attack at Yi Xian. "TSK, you are only in the third echelon." Yi Xian sneered, and quickly slashed several times with his sword. Nihility Flame Sword Wave. Swish. The black sword ray pierced through the air, instantly destroying the opponent's attack, and then cutting his body in half. His brain was cut open, and his soul instantly left his body, which was then dispersed by the Nihility Flame Sword Wave. Ding! The killing intent of the host has increased. A system notification sounded. Unfortunately, people of the same level did not give Yi Xian much killing intent. Although there were not many people who entered the Demon Emperor's Land of Heritage, they were all outstanding people at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. If Lin Guangyao's strength was ranked, he could only be considered average. Apart from the 10 Platinum Knights who surpassed the Glazed Knights, he only surpassed a few experts from the Tianjue Palace and the Penglai Demon Clan. This person was slightly weaker than Lin Guangyao, so he was directly killed by Yi Xian. Yi Xian quickly rushed over and took the Universe Ring. Unfortunately, the other party came to fight, so he naturally did not bring many things. Then he quickly rushed north. Based on his connection with Luoluo, he knew that Luoluo was also rushing towards him. However, he encountered 2 ignorant experts from the Evil Path Holy Lands on the way, and both of them were instantly killed by him. "Brother!" A voice that sounded like a silver bell rang out. After a short journey, Yi Xian finally saw Luoluo. Because Elder Immortal Tianju said that Yi Xian was her brother in her previous life, and because of her connection with Yi Xian, Luoluo trusted Yi Xian very much. After the two met, Luoluo directly fell into Yi Xian's arms. "Luoluo, did you encounter any danger on the way?" Yi Xian asked. "I met someone I didn't know, but I killed him with one punch." Luoluo nodded. Although she was reincarnated as a fox demon, after inheriting the Demon Emperor's Land of Heritage, not only did her strength directly soar to Heaven Ascension Stage 9, even her body was extremely strong. Yi Xian estimated that Luoluo's strength could be ranked in the upper middle of the second echelon. "Luoluo, can you sense the specific location of the Demon Emperor's Land of Heritage?" Yi Xian asked. "No, after I came in, I could only sense you, brother." Luoluo shook her head. "In that case, let's find it." Yi Xian's eyes flickered, and he directly summoned the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian, then let Luoluo go with them. The Ghost Dome Great Emperor's battle strength was very strong, and he was probably in the top 3 of the second echelon, so Yi Xian was not worried. Chapter 1635. After Luoluo, the Ghost Dome Great Emperor, and Wei Zhentian left, Yi Xian summoned the old tree again. "Old tree, they might not recognize you, so just leave when you meet someone from the same faction," Yi Xian said to the old tree. "No problem," the old tree replied, then turned into a bolt of lightning and left. After mutating, he could use the 9 Dragons Thunder Flash without a cooldown. His speed was even faster than Yi Xian's, and his strength could probably squeeze into the first echelon. Even if someone from the second echelon encountered him, they would probably only end up dead. There was no other way. After all, through Fairy Glaze's transmission, Yi Xian knew that more than 60 people from the Wicked Path Holy Land had come this time, and all of them were at the peak of Heaven Ascension Stage 9. During the search, Yi Xian also encountered a few people from the same faction. There were Platinum Knights from the Glazed Knights, and also experts from the Yao clan. However, after exchanging a glance with them, Yi Xian directly left to search for the true location of the inheritance. Finally, 10 minutes after Yi Xian entered the location of the Yao Emperor's inheritance, an aura suddenly spread out. "Big brother, I feel the aura of the other half of the Yao Emperor's inheritance," Luoluo transmitted. After Yi Xian and Luoluo met yesterday, Luoluo had grasped the ability to transmit her voice through space. Just happened to come in handy. "Why didn't I feel it?" Yi Xian was somewhat puzzled. He hurriedly asked, "Where is it?" "If I'm north, it's northeast of you," Luoluo replied. "Okay, let's go." Yi Xian said nothing and immediately rushed over. He reckoned that someone must have found the Yao Emperor's inheritance. He had to hurry, or he wouldn't know who had taken the inheritance. After hearing this news, Luoluo and the old tree simultaneously rushed over to the location of the Yao Emperor's inheritance. The first to arrive was Yi Xian. He saw a platform in the middle of the sea of flowers, but there was nothing on the platform. Someone had taken it. Fortunately, the person who had taken away the other half of the demon emperor's inheritance did not leave. It was a young man in red. He was holding an interspatial ring in his hand. One had to know that the demonic beast emperor's inheritance was most likely with the holy leader's token. Now that this red-clothed young man had obtained the demonic beast emperor's inheritance, it was very likely that the holy leader's token was also in his hands. This person seems to be the number 1 on the dragon demon list, the bloodthirsty berserk dragon blood spring autumn. With his eye of revelation, Yi Xian immediately recognized him. The bloodthirsty berserk dragon was a new branch of the colossal dragon clan. Their battle prowess was extremely high, and this Shuechuanqiu was a genius of the bloodthirsty berserk dragon clan. At the same time, he was also the strongest. However, this bloodthirsty berserk dragon, Shuechuanqiu, was only in the 3rd echelon. There was nothing to be afraid of. I remember you seem to be Liuli. Just as Bloodspring Autumn was about to speak, Yi Xian attacked. Death Warrant. Nihility Flame Sword Wave. Streaks of black sword chi tore through the air. These attacks could be considered as Yi Xian going easy because his goal was to make Bloodspring Autumn lower his guard and then... you don't know what's good for you. Bloodspring Autumn only snorted coldly, preparing to destroy Yi Xian's attacks. However, the moment he attacked, Yi Xian's figure suddenly disappeared, and then reappeared behind him. Eye of Assassination. Rip. A crisp sound rang out, and the bloodthirsty berserk dragon Shuechuanqiu, who was ranked first on the demonic dragon list, had his head sliced off by Yi Xian. Following that, his soul was gone. Instant kill. What rank first on the demonic dragon list? So weak. Yi Xian disdainfully ridiculed, and then quickly put away Shuechuanqiu's universe ring and the demonic emperor's universe ring. I've finally obtained the other half of the demonic emperor's universe inheritance. As long as I give it to Luo Luo, it will be able to cultivate the myriad fiend treasured body. This is something even stronger than the Liuli treasured body. Yi Xian couldn't help but sigh. However, he didn't find the holy leader token in this universe ring. It seemed that the holy leader token was somewhere else. Luo Luo, I've obtained the other half of the demonic emperor's universe inheritance. I'll give it to you now. After Yi Xian finished speaking, he quickly flew towards Luo Luo. Ah, big brother, I meant that simple. Luo Luo suddenly transmitted. The successor of the Emperor of Death, Simple? Hearing this, Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. Enemies were indeed bound to meet on a narrow road. He had met Simple before. This guy had tried to steal his will of death time and time again. Later on, when he was at the Black Flame Dragon tribe, he was defeated by Capricious, and never appeared again. Today Yi Xian was going to take revenge. Unfortunately, the space in this secret realm was still stable. Even if Yi Xian used the Eye of Space, he couldn't break through the void and enter. Ding! The host is currently unable to use the Eye of the Void. Not only that, but even the Eye of the Void couldn't be used. Ghost Dome Emperor Wei Zhentian, delay that guy for me. The old tree and I will be there soon. Yi Xian hurriedly reminded them. The successor of the Emperor of Death, Simple, was a super force in the 1st echelon. Luo Luo and Ghost Dome Emperor were in the 2nd echelon, and Wei Zhentian was in the 3rd echelon. As long as they could hold on until they arrived, Simple would be dead meat. Ah, that big brother monk is coming to help. At this moment, Luo Luo suddenly transmitted a message. Big brother monk, are you referring to One Thought Monk? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. This One Thought Monk was also an expert in the 2nd echelon. Moreover, he was from the holy ground of Buddhism. It would be easier for him to deal with One Thought Monk compared to the others. Ah, another ugly monk in red and gray clothes is here. Hearing this, Yi Xian was stunned. Ugly monks in red and gray clothes should be the flowery monk and meat monk of the Evil Sun Holy Ground. The master of the Evil Sun Holy Ground was called Evil Buddha. It was said that Evil Buddha was once a disciple of the Buddhist Supreme. Later on, he was expelled from the holy ground of Buddhism. After that, he went to the Evil Sun Holy Ground and became a general under the master of the Evil Sun Holy Ground. After the master of the Evil Sun Holy Ground fell, he inherited the Holy Lord token and became the new master of the Holy Ground. In other words, the flowery monk and meat monk were both from the Evil Sun Holy Ground. They were enemies. These two people were experts in the second echelon. Adding on the fact that Simple was here, Luo was in a very dangerous situation. Wei Zhentian, how's the situation on your side? Yixian hurriedly asked. Although he could share his vision, he could only see and not sense the situation. Wei Zhentian sent a message saying that the Buddhist monk one thought was blocking the successor of the Emperor of Death, Simple. As for the other three, they were fighting with the two monks. He also said that the successor of the Emperor of Death, Simple, was not as strong as they imagined. Hang in there, old tree will be here soon. He could sense his and the others' location. Relatively speaking, he was farther away. Moreover, the old tree was faster, so it was naturally the first to arrive. Chapter 1636. In less than 2 seconds, Old Tree arrived at the scene. With his participation in the battle, the situation immediately changed. After all, Old Tree could be considered as the third echelon in battle. Ding! The host's killing intent has increased. Ding! The host's killing intent has increased. 2 system notifications rang out. Yixian directly received 2 amounts of killing intent. This was from the deaths of the Flower Monk and the Meat Monk. As for the successor of the Emperor of Death, his body was also blown up by a punch from Old Tree. What? So it's just a death clone? Yixian was stunned. No wonder Wei Zhentian said he wasn't as powerful as he imagined. It was just a clone. However, for a mere clone to be able to fight with a single thought, this eBay was indeed not an ordinary person. Finally, Yixian arrived at the scene as well. And I thought it was He Yi's original body. I didn't think it was just a death clone. Otherwise, Luo and the others might be in danger. Yixian finally let out a sigh of relief. Afterwards, he thanked One Thought Monk. Thank you, Master. You're welcome, sir. However, may I take the corpses of the Flower Monk and the Meat Monk with me? Asked One Thought Monk. Go ahead. Yixian nodded. Evil Buddha was the Buddhist Venerable's disciple. The Flower Monk and the Meat Monk were once part of the Buddhist Holy Land, so One Thought wanted to take the corpses back. Luo, this is the other half of the Demon Emperor's legacy. Afterwards, Yixian gave the Ring of Cosmos to Luo. If I refine it now, it'll probably take me a day, but... Luo frowned. Although she had only been born recently, her intelligence was not low. This was not the time to refine the Demon Emperor's legacy. It's fine. Big Brother has a place for you to refine it. Moreover, you might only be able to find the Holy Lord's medallion after you refine the Demon Emperor's legacy. Yixian stroked her hair lovingly before stowing her away in the planting space. If it were anyone else, Yixian would not be able to store them away as long as they resisted. However, he had not yet rescinded his contract with Luo. As long as he wanted to, he could store them away. After Luo reincarnated, she didn't have any memories, so she was very curious about the planting space. However, she quickly got used to it and began to refine the other half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance. However, Yixian naturally wouldn't waste the day that Luo was refining half of the Fey Emperor's inheritance. He wanted to continue his search. Even if he couldn't find the Holy Leader's token, killing some enemies would still be worth it. One Thought Master, please be careful. Yixian clasped his fist at the One Thought Monk before directly leaving. Before One Thought could ask about the identity of the Old Tree and Ghost Dome Emperor, Yixian had already left. He could only sigh and continue searching for his companions. This mystic realm was also peculiar. Signal flares had no effect and would disappear as soon as they rose into the air. However, those with lower strength would gather together after meeting each other, and the team would continue to grow. Yixian, old immortal Tianju, said that we should only be able to find the Holy Leader token after refining the complete inheritance of the Demon Emperor. Fairy Luli suddenly sent a message. I know. I've already given the other half of the inheritance to Luo. She's currently refining it. Yixian nodded. All right. Also, our people are all gathered in the east. You can meet up with them there. Understood. With that, Yixian immediately changed his route and rushed towards the east. Although he could move alone, it would still be very troublesome if he ran into the Emperor of Death and the Prince of Netherworld at the same time. A while later, he successfully met up with the others. Yixian quickly glanced around and discovered that less than half of the people had entered. Wayward, Renfeng, Lin Jianhao, Lin Guangyao, and around a dozen other people. Yixian, did you run into anyone stronger? Wayward could not help but ask when he saw Yixian. I ran into a simple death clone, as well as the flowery monk and the meat monk from the Sheong sacred land. Yixian replied. Did you kill them? Wayward raised an eyebrow. Of course. Yixian nodded. He was not weak, so he obviously had to kill them. Not to mention the death clone, even if it was a simple death clone, he would probably die too. If that's the case, then report the battle situation. Wayward turned to look at the others. Lin Guangyao immediately added. 6 people from the Glazed Knights are known to have died. Among those who entered, the Glazed Knights were the weakest in terms of individual combat strength. Some of them could not even squeeze into the 3rd echelon, so it was expected that they would suffer heavy casualties. 4 people from the Penglai demon tribe have died as well. An expert from the demon tribe said. 3 people from the Tianjue Palace have died. Lin Jianhao, the disciple of the Tianjue Palace elder, said. In total they had lost 13 people. The losses were still quite heavy. After all, among the experts from the Penglai demon clan and the Tianjue Palace who had died, there were also old monsters who had cultivated for 10,000 years. Their combat strength could be squeezed into the 2nd echelon. Yixian, that demon emperor's inheritance still needs 1 more day to refine? Wayward asked again. Yes, Luoluo has already refined it in my space. Yixian nodded. Although it's very likely that the Holy Leader token will only appear after we collect the complete demon emperor's inheritance, we can't just stay here for 1 day. Let's move in groups. Wayward looked around. It was fine for him to move alone, but if the others moved alone, they would almost certainly die if they encountered an expert. Now they had gathered together for this purpose. Everyone present nodded slightly, then began to form groups of 2 or 3. Even the experts in the 2nd echelon were the same. Yixian, are you interested in doing something big? Wayward suddenly smiled slyly. What do you mean? Yixian narrowed his eyes. You know that my original form is a platinum holy light dragon, so I'm more sensitive to death aura. Although the range of this sea of flowers is small, I can sense the simple one. However, he was with the Prince of Netherworld, Nether Limitless at that time, so I didn't make a move, Wayward said. So you're saying that you want to kill these 2 leaders first? Yixian's eyes flickered. Clearly he was persuaded. Because they had entered first, otherwise, he would have used the Death Hunt command to mark the successor of the Emperor of Death and the Prince of Netherworld. That way he could kill them. Now that Wayward had the ability to sense the simple one's location, it was much more convenient. As long as we kill these 2, the remaining people are nothing to be afraid of, Wayward said with a grin. If you can sense the other party, then the simple one can sense you too. When the 2 of them joined forces, why didn't they find trouble with you first? Yixian asked curiously. Haha, this you know, Wayward said somewhat shamefully. Now Yixian understood. So it turned out that being willful was directly cowardly. Chapter 1637. Alright, I'll go with you. Yixian nodded immediately. Hearing this, Wayward patted Yixian's shoulder and turned to say, Renfeng, you go with them. Yes, senior. Renfeng nodded. Then Yixian teamed up with Wayward and left. Although it's 2 against 2, don't be careless. That simple probably has a lot of undead creatures, and the Prince of Netherworld also has some ghost puppets. We'll probably be surrounded, Wayward reminded. It's fine. I like being surrounded. Yixian grinned. When they were rushing to this rendezvous point, he and the old tree had already gathered there, so this time the old tree was also there. Moreover, his slaughter seals required killing intent to form. As long as he could form a few slaughter seals and set up the immortal slaying sword formation, even itinerant immortals would die. It's too slow. Sit on my back, Wayward suddenly said. Then transformed into his true form, the Platinum Holy Light Dragon. When he reverted to his original form, he was very small and petite. But now his body length had reached 1,000 meters, and his speed had increased significantly. Along the way they encountered many enemies, but all of them were killed by Yixian without exception. Among them was a monk wine under Evil Buddha of the Evil Sun Holy Land. His strength should be above average in the 2nd echelon. Unfortunately, he encountered Yixian and Wayward. In his true form, The platinum holy light dragon carried Yixian around the sea of flowers. Soon he sensed a nauseating aura. Found it. Wayward's eyes lit up as he reminded. With the eye of revelation, Yixian did not see anything. It seemed that Simple was outside his field of vision. I'm ready. Yixian nodded solemnly. He was already holding the highest grade artifact Crimson Flame Sword in his hand. I sense the auras of Simple and Nether Limitless. There are a few others. Do you want to go? Wayward asked. We're already here. How can we not go? Without another word, Yixian stomped his feet on the dragon's back and leaped toward the dragon's head. All right, leave the easy part to me. I'll leave the Prince of Netherworld to you. Willful didn't waste any more words and directly charged over. On the other side, the successor of the Emperor of Death, Jianyi, and the Prince of Netherworld, Nether Limitless, also sensed the willful aura and immediately prepared for battle. When the people behind them saw this, they immediately drew their weapons and waited quietly. In next to no time, Yixian and his willful figure appeared before their eyes. Last time you ran away. This time you brought someone with you. Do you think you can fight us? Capricious shouted. If it was a one-on-one battle, he wouldn't be able to win against Capricious. However, they were now on the same side as the Netherworld Holy Land. With both sides working together, they had a high chance of winning. But how could they have known that Yixian was actually a hidden superpower? Cut the crap. Let me send you to see your senior brother. Willful roared and instantly attacked. At the same time, Yixian charged over under the protection of Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian. Slaughter Seal. Yixian immediately used the new skill of his immortal slaying bloodline, and immediately condensed a Slaughter Seal. If he wanted, he could double his combat power now. No, triple it. Again. Damn, it can't be used? Yixian suddenly opened his eyes wide. He originally wanted to condense 3 Slaughter Seals. That way, he could directly triple his combat power and kill his enemies without a problem. However, he didn't expect that the Slaughter Seal couldn't be used continuously. It seemed that it wouldn't be so easy to use the Slaughter Seal skill. Since it can't be used, then let's kill. Yixian's eyes flashed with killing intent. At the same time, the attributes of Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian soared by 2 times. Undying Battle Soul. Before the battle, Yixian and Wayward had already discussed a strategy. If they fought, then Wayward would delay Jianyi and Nether Limitless, and Yixian would kill the remaining people. Apart from Jianyi and Nether Limitless, there were 4 other experts. However, they didn't know whether they were in the 2nd or 3rd echelon. However, it didn't matter anymore. After activating his Undying Battle Soul, Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian charged toward the 2 experts. The former swept his sword with all his might and sent one of them flying. Wei Zhentian wasn't weak either. Since this battle was crucial, Yixian directly used Sword Blade Storm. In an instant, tens of thousands of blood swords swept out and engulfed the 2 experts. On the other hand, Yixian quickly dealt with the other 2 experts. Since they were in the same realm, his killing intent didn't increase by much. Since it's like this, then let's use it. Only now did Yixian realize that he was fighting with someone of the same level. He reckoned that even if he fought for an hour, it would be difficult for him to condense a single Slaughter Seal. Therefore, he directly activated the Slaughter Seal and used the Slaughter State, causing his combat strength to increase explosively by 2 times. On the other side, Jianyi and Nether Limitless were shocked when they saw the 4 experts being killed instantly. This time they didn't dare to be negligent. They quickly took out their respective trump cards from their interspatial rings. 2 skeletal dragons. 2 nether puppets. These 2 skeletons were itinerant immortal dragons when they were alive. They could be considered pseudo-immortal beasts. After they died, their combat power was very strong. When the 2 skeletal dragons joined forces, even Jianyi had to be careful. As for the 2 nether puppets, they were personally refined by the Netherworld Emperor. They were also itinerant immortals when they were alive, so they were extremely strong. These 4 undead creatures could all squeeze into the 1st echelon. Therefore, Jianyi and Nether Limitless had the combat power of 6 1st echelon experts. Damn it, I knew you had trump cards, but don't underestimate me. Wayward shouted angrily. A ray of white light shot out from his mouth and rapidly expanded. It was a white pillar with a coiling dragon. The moment it appeared, it shone with boundless light. When this holy white light landed on the skeletal dragons and the nether puppets, they immediately emitted green smoke. The white dragon demon suppression pillar. That thing is actually in his hands. Jianyi was shocked. This thing was the nemesis of the undead creatures. It was the most precious treasure of the Life Saint sect. She didn't expect it to be in Wayward's hands. No, that's just a fake. The sharp-eyed prince of Netherworld saw through the clues. If it was the real white dragon demon suppression pillar, the 4 undead creatures would have been instantly purified. When the white dragon demon suppression pillar appeared, Jianyi and the prince of Netherworld had actually thought of retreating. However, when they saw that the white dragon demon suppression pillar was just a fake, they decided not to leave. After all, there were 6 of them. However, Yi Xian and the others weren't to be trifled with. Wei Zhentian, kill them. Yi Xian immediately ordered. At the same time, he released the old tree. Chapter 1638. It's finally time for me to make a move. Old tree grinned and transformed into the ember of lightning fire. 9 lightning fire heavenly dragons flew out of his body and attacked the 2 nearest netherworld puppets. 9 dragons sky roaring strike. The power of this move was no weaker than the sword storm. 2 powerful moves were executed at the same time and instantly turned the 2 netherworld puppets into dust. Furthermore, this was not the end. Death Pursuit Order. Eye of Assassination. Yi Xian directly marked it as simple, then instantly flashed behind him. Together with Old Shu's 9 dragons thunder flash, the 2 of them attacked one after another, connecting seamlessly. Yi Xian, the successor of the Emperor of Death, was shocked and used his trump card again. Immortal Body. Just as Yi Xian and Old Shu's attacks were about to land on his body suddenly enlarged by several times. The Void Flame Sword Wave and Old Shu's Thunder Fire Fist actually didn't cause the slightest bit of damage when they struck his body. The disciple of the Emperor of Death was indeed not easy to deal with. However, Yi Xian and Old Tree's goal this time was not to kill Yi Xian, but to prevent Yi Xian from controlling the 2 bone dragons. Haha, take this. Yi Xian's arrogant voice rang out. In the next moment, he directly spat out a white dragon breath. Innate ability, Sacred Dragon's Breath. This white dragon breath directly blasted onto a bone dragon, instantly blasting it into pieces. The Platinum Sacred Light Dragon's dragon breath increased the damage of undead creatures. It was very normal for it to kill a bone dragon in one hit. Now, 2 netherworld puppets and a bone dragon were instantly destroyed. This caught the 2 of them off guard. Damn it, let's go. The black-armored prince of Netherworld's expression changed drastically as he turned around and left. Old Tree, chase him to death. Yi Xian immediately transmitted his voice to Old Tree. It was impossible to travel through space in this mystic realm, so Yi Xian only used the Death Pursuit order to mark the prince of Netherworld. Then Old Tree, who had the 9 dragons thunder flash, chased after him. As for Yi Xian, he would kill him first. Hoo. Tens of thousands of blood swords swept toward Yi Xian. Yi Xian and the Ghost Dome Great Emperor also attacked from the left and right. On the other hand, the Platinum Holy Light Dragon was condensing on the spot, preparing to kill it with a single strike. Go and see your senior brother. At this time, the willful condensation was complete. After a warning, it opened its bloody mouth. Easygoing was surrounded from 3 sides and had nowhere to hide. He controlled the bone dragon to stand between him and Caprice. Boom! The holy dragon's breath burst out, and the bone dragon was used as a shield to block the attack. If you dare to touch me, Master will definitely not let you off. She had no other choice but to bring out her background. Even if your senior brother died in my hands, am I not still alive and well? He opened his dragon mouth willfully and sneered. The Life Sacred Land, the Buddhist Sacred Land, the Death Sacred Land, and the Nether Sacred Land were 4 great sacred lands. As for Simple's master, the Emperor of Death, he was the master of the Holy Land of Death and had a deep background. However, Caprice's background was not bad either. His grandfather was the master of the Life Sacred Land, and his strength was even stronger than the Emperor of Death. So what was there to be afraid of? After using the Undying Body, Simple's defense was amazing. Even the Sword Storm and Void Flame Sword ripples could not break through. However, this Undying Body definitely had a time limit. Once the time was up, Simple would be a fish on the chopping board. Caprice had already condensed the 3rd Holy Dragon's breath. but he could not wait and directly released it. Boom! This dragon breath obliterated hundreds of blood swords, and then blasted on Ultraman's transformed body. The undying body, which was immune to normal attacks, was directly broken by this holy dragon's breath. Simple was heavily injured and spat out a mouthful of blood. The Emperor of Death's undying body is indeed powerful. I want to see how much ability you have. Caprice snorted coldly and condensed the power of the holy light again. At the same time, he controlled the White Dragon Demon Suppression Column to smash it. Simple. Bang! The White Dragon Demon Suppression Column's damage was not high, but it could satisfy Caprice. Get out of my way. Simple was furious. He swung his fist and sent the White Dragon Demon Suppression Column flying. At the same time, he looked for an opening to escape. Unfortunately, there were tens of thousands of blood swords surrounding him. As long as he ran in any direction, Yi Xian and the Ghost Dome Emperor would follow. There was no way he could escape. Fortunately, he still had a soul seed in his master's hands, so he was not too desperate. Even if he died this time, he could use the soul seed to revive. This was one of the benefits of not breaking through to Itinerant Immortal. At this time, Simple's eyes flashed. He suddenly thought of a solution. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Simple roared at the sky. Then the chi of heaven and earth suddenly began to circulate wildly and gather above Simple's head. Seeing this, Yi Xian was a little confused. Could it be that Simple was going to use his trump card and die together with them? Damn, this guy is going to undergo the immortal tribulation on the spot. Caprice immediately reacted and exclaimed, "This guy wants to lead the immortal tribulation to attack us. Let's go." Back off. Yi Xian was also shocked and quickly retreated. The immortal tribulation was not a joke, let alone someone else's immortal tribulation. At this time, only by becoming an itinerant immortal could they survive this crisis. The space here was very stable, similar to the space in the Penglai demon tribe. If they broke through to itinerant immortal, they might be able to make a move here. However, what shocked Simple was that he had failed to lead the immortal tribulation this time. Poof! Suddenly, the immortal tribulation thundercloud in the sky dispersed. There was no way to undergo the immortal tribulation here. What? Simple was shocked. This was his last trick, and he did not expect it to fail. Ha ha ha. That's what you get for showing off. Caprice laughed loudly. Simple originally wanted to use the immortal tribulation to scare off Yi Xian and Caprice. Then, he would directly undergo the immortal tribulation and become an itinerant immortal. That way he could escape. He did not expect that he could not undergo the immortal tribulation here. He was done for. If you dare to touch me, you will definitely die without a burial place. Simple did not forget to threaten in the end. However, as soon as he finished speaking, his body began to shrink. The duration of the immortal body was about to end. Seeing this, Yi Xian's eyes lit up and he shouted, "Attack him!" In an instant, tens of thousands of blood swords swept over. The defense of the shrunken immortal body decreased, and it was instantly pierced through. Ding! The host's killing intent has increased. A system notification sounded, which proved that Simple had been killed. At the same time, Yi Xian's Eye of Revelation also captured a wisp of remnant soul. Void Flame Sword Wave. Poof! With a soft thud, Simple's soul was obliterated by Yi Xian. What successor of the Emperor of Death? He was not worth mentioning. Chapter 1639. Here, I'll go after that guy, Wayward said to Yi Xian and immediately chased after the Prince of Netherworld. Yi Xian quickly kept Wayward's Qian Kuan ring. However, just as he was about to keep Wayward's body, Wayward's eyes suddenly turned into two wisps of death intent that rose into the air. Then they condensed into an illusory figure. Who gave you the guts to kill my disciple? The person who spoke was a middle-aged man. After hearing this, Yi Xian immediately recognized him. This person should be Wayward's master, the leader of the Holy Land of Death, the Emperor of Death. Wayward, who was about to chase after the Prince of Netherworld, suddenly stopped. He looked at the Emperor of Death and laughed coldly. What a joke! You're just an illusory figure. What right do you have to appear in front of me? It's you who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth? The Death Emperor's gaze landed on Chan Mu. Last time, Chan Mu had killed his first disciple, which led to the Death Emperor choosing another successor. This time Wayward had been killed again. This aggro had increased. However, Wayward was right. He was just an illusory figure now. What ability did he have? Indeed, I can't do anything to you now. However, you better be careful in the future. The Emperor of Death's eyes flickered. After he finished speaking, he turned into 2 rays of white light and entered Yixian and Wayward's bodies respectively. Oh my! Wayward was not the only one who did not react. Yixian was the same. He guessed that this was some kind of mark left by the Emperor of Death. You Emperor of Death, are you trying to find someone to kill me in the future? Yixian, don't be afraid. I'll ask my father to help me get rid of this mark later. After Wayward finished speaking, he immediately flew into the distance. After all, the Prince of Netherworld had escaped. Yixian did not pay much attention to the mark left by the Emperor of Death. After all, he was in the Penglai Holy Land now. Even if the Emperor of Death came personally, he could not do anything to him. Using the shared vision, Yixian could see the figure of the Prince of Netherworld through Old Tree's eyes. The Prince of Netherworld, Nether Limitless, was slightly weaker than Wayward. However, he was good at escaping. Old Tree, you chase after them. Capricious and I will split up and flank them. Yixian immediately transmitted his voice to Old Tree. Alright. The Prince of Netherworld was rather fast. With his 9 dragons thunder flash, the Old Tree could barely keep up with him. However, the Sea of Flowers had a limited range. Once they reached the edge, they would be knocked into by Yixian or Caprice. Along the way, the Prince of Netherworld met a few people. There were Platinum Knights, Demon Race experts, and people from the 3 unorthodox sacred grounds. However, when the Platinum Knights and Demon Race experts recognized the Prince of Netherworld, they avoided him. The Prince of Netherworld didn't have the time to deal with them. As for the 3 experts from the holy grounds of the evil path, they were scared out of their wits when they saw the Prince of Netherworld being chased by an unknown bald elder. They hurriedly retreated. This chase lasted for a long time, a full 20 minutes. After the Prince of Netherworld fled at full speed for 20 minutes, he reached the edge of the Sea of Flowers, which was also the edge of the array. This time, if he didn't change his direction, Old Tree would catch up to him. Damn it! The Prince of Netherworld's expression changed drastically. Then he flew toward the west. Coincidentally, the west was where Yixian was heading. Haha, we bumped into each other. Yixian laughed heartily. His eyes flashed as he used the Eye of Assassination and appeared behind the Prince of Netherworld. Although more than 20 minutes had passed and the double amplification of the slaughter state had long since passed, don't forget that Yixian could use the slaughter seal 3 times a day. Massacre mode. Yixian instantly exploded, and his aura doubled again. Then, he slashed his sword at the back of the Prince of Netherworld's head. Void Flame Sword Ripple. Whoosh! The wind howled. The Scarlet Flame Sword instantly attacked the back of the Prince of Netherworld's head. This attack was not weak. If the Prince of Netherworld couldn't dodge it, his head would naturally fly off. Damn it, Netherworld Dharma body. The Prince of Netherworld's expression turned cold, and his body suddenly became illusory. Then Yixian's Scarlet Flame Sword passed through him as if it had cut through water. As for the Prince of Netherworld, he was completely unharmed. Good move. Yixian was shocked. This move was indeed good. But he heard the system notification that the Netherworld Dharma body could not be copied. It seemed that the level was too high, or there were some specific factors that he had not satisfied. However, this did not matter. He had to kill the Prince of Netherworld first. While Yixian was blocking the Prince of Netherworld, the Old Tree appeared in front of the Prince of Netherworld in a flash. Poof! The Old Tree's hand passed through the Prince of Netherworld's body. The son of the Netherworld Emperor was not so easy to deal with. The successor of the Emperor of Death was simple. He had cultivated the immortal body and transformed into Ultraman, making his entire body indestructible. As for the son of the Netherworld Emperor, Nether Limitless, he had cultivated the Netherworld Dharma body, and was immune to all kinds of attacks. However, so what? Wei Zhentian surround him. Yixian sneered. In the next moment, Wei Zhentian suddenly appeared and directly wrapped the 3 of them up, leaving no room for escape. At this moment, the Prince of Netherworld's expression had darkened. However, He pretended to be calm and laughed. Ha ha ha. Do you think you can kill me with just the few of you? Ordinary attacks are indeed useless against you, but why don't you try this move again? At this moment, Yi Xian sneered and suddenly moved away from the old tree. Then Wei Zhentian tore open a hole, and a ray of white light shot in from the outside. This ray of white light was the breath of the sacred dragon that Wayward had released in a hurry. Ordinary attacks were useless against the Netherworld Dharma body, but Wayward's breath of the sacred dragon could. The Prince of Netherworld was engulfed by the white light and was instantly purified. Even his soul was obliterated, leaving behind only an interspatial ring. As he was not killed by Yi Xian, there was naturally no killing intent value. However, Wayward said generously, "Here, take it. Many thanks." Yi Xian did not hesitate and took the Prince of Netherworld's interspatial ring. However, as he had expected, there was not much inside. Now that the successor of the Emperor of Death and the Prince of Netherworld were dead, there was no one in the Demon Emperor's inheritance mystic land who could stop them. TSK. There's also a Netherworld puppet that was refined from the corpse of an itinerant immortal. Yi Xian grinned. The combat power of this Netherworld puppet was at the level of the first echelon, and it was extremely precious. Now that there are no more opponents, let's split up and kill all the people from the evil Holy Land first. After saying that, Wayward turned around. As long as they killed all the experts from the evil Holy Land, they would not have to be afraid of the Holy Leader's token even if it appeared. Chapter 1640. At this time outside the secret realm. Ha ha, good. This is really good news. Even the Prince of Netherworld has fallen in there. This is great news. Old immortal Tianju could not help but laugh. Yi Xian had also spread the news of Simple's death through Fairy Luli. Now the news of the Prince of Netherworld's death, Nether Limitless, had spread. The rogue immortals of the evil sacred ground could not believe it. It was one thing for Bloodchuancho, Monk Flowery, and the others to die, but how could the first echelon of battle be killed as well? What happened? The Platinum Holy Light Dragon can't kill two people in a row. These rogue immortals could not help but think. At this time the four rogue immortals from the Sacred Land of Death and the Netherworld Sacred Land all made a decision. The four of them were not simply bodyguards for Simple and Nether Limitless. They had come here for another purpose. However, the Netherworld Sacred Land had also invited an expert, but he had not appeared for a long time. No one knew what he was doing. Through Fairy Luli and Old Immortal Tianju, almost everyone in the camp knew about the death of Simple and Nether Limitless, and their morale was greatly boosted. On the contrary, the morale of the evil sacred ground experts fell, and they began to be cautious. If it were not for the fact that they could not find the exit, many of them would have left. At this time, Yi Xian and Capricious were roaming the sky above the Sea of Flowers, killing any enemy they saw. After half a day, there were only a few survivors from the evil sacred ground. Some hid in the Sea of Flowers, hoping to survive this calamity. Although there were many evil sacred ground experts, almost none of them could be found now. Therefore, Yi Xian and the others gathered in front of the platform where the Shifter Emperor's inheritance was placed. They had searched through the entire Sea of Flowers but had not found any clues. Therefore, this was the only place that was more likely to be the culprit. Another half a day passed. Luo, who was refining the other half of the Shifter Emperor's inheritance in the planting space, finally opened her eyes. "Brother, I'm done refining." Luo's tender voice rang in Yi Xian's mind. "How was it?" Yi Xian asked curiously. "After refining the other half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance, I obtained the memories of the Demon Emperor's inheritance. I already know where the Holy Leader's token is." Luo replied. "It's under this half of the inheritance. At the same time, Senior Monster Emperor's corpse is also down there. However, it's protected by a formation. If we forcefully break it open, the interspatial ring that contains the Holy Leader's token will shatter." "Oh, okay." Yi Xian nodded slightly. Since Luo had already refined the other half of the Demon Emperor's inheritance and obtained the inheritance memories left behind by the Dragon Sparrow Fairy, then she should be able to obtain the Holy Leader badge. However, the matter was not over yet. There were still many people outside who were eyeing them covetously. Yi Xian glanced around and said, Luo already knows the whereabouts of the Holy Leader's token. However, we still haven't decided who the Holy Leader's token belongs to, right? I feel that since only Lord Luoluo knows, then, Yao Tun of the Penglai demon race said. However, he was interrupted before he could finish. Sai, you can't say that. If Yixian and I hadn't killed Simple and Nether Limitless, do you think this matter would be so easy? Wayward snorted. Then what do you think? Lin Zhanhao of Heaven Absolute Palace suddenly asked. That's simple. The strong are respected, so we'll naturally use strength to obtain the treasure. Each side will send out one person, and the one who wins in the end will obtain the Holy Leader's token. Wayward suggested. Actually, he was not afraid of others. In the current situation, the only one who could fight him was probably Yixian. Right now there were 4 other factions present. Heaven Absolute Palace, Penglai Demon Race, Glazed Knights and Life Sacred Land. Actually, there was a 5th faction which was the Buddhist Sacred Land. However, the One Thought Monk was currently on the side of the Glazed Knights, so he could not be considered a representative of the Buddhist Sacred Land. At the same time, Heaven Absolute Palace and the Penglai Demon Race were on the same side. Even if Lin Zhanhao of Heaven Absolute Palace obtained the Holy Leader's token, he would give it to Luoluo. After all, they were here to help this time. Lin Zhanhao and Yao Tian exchanged glances. Yixian and Luoluo seemed to have an inexplicable relationship. Was Yixian not going to help Luoluo? I've already promised Fairy Glazed Glass to help him obtain the Holy Leader's token. However, Luoluo also needs the Holy Leader's token, so I have to obtain it. After Luoluo uses the Holy Leader's token to overcome the heavenly tribulation, I'll give it to Fairy Glazed Glass. Yixian thought to himself. Your Heaven Absolute Palace and the Penglai Demon Race should stop fighting. I can send you flying with a single hand. Wayward suddenly turned around and said. Even if you were once a wandering immortal, I can't back down. Yao Tian snorted coldly. If that's the case, then you and Lin Zhanhao can come together. I'll accept this battle, Wayward said directly. Hearing that, Yao Tian and Lin Zhanhao exchanged glances. This was Wayward's own request, so they would not be unreasonable. In a one-on-one situation they would definitely lose, but in a 2-on-1 situation, they might still have a chance of winning. Then I'll offend you. Immediately, Lin Zhanhao summoned a sword, while Yao Tian directly transformed into his original form. He was the Destruction Heavenly Dragon with the strongest attack power among the Heavenly Dragons. The 2 of them joining forces was not a joke. What do you mean by once a wandering immortal? Today I'll teach you a lesson. After saying that, Wayward directly faced them. He did not need to transform into his original form to deal with 2 people from the 2nd echelon. In an instant, the 3 of them exchanged blows. A battle of this level was relatively rare. Originally, everyone thought that Lin Zhanhao and Yao Tian would at least force Wayward's original form out by joining forces, but they did not expect that they would be sent flying by Wayward's single punch from the beginning. The difference in strength was obvious at a glance. How can he be so strong? Lin Zhanhao and Yao Tian thought in unison. They were both at the peak of Heaven Completion Stage 9th tier, but their strength was so much weaker than Wayward's, which was a little hard for them to accept. Moreover, they could see that if Wayward attacked with his full strength, the 2 of them would probably be killed in an instant. In less than a few seconds, Lin Zhanhao and Yao Tian were defeated by Wayward alone. How about it? Why don't both of you try again together? Wayward said with a smile. At this time there were still 7 people from Tianju Palace and Penglai Demon Tribe. Including Lin Zhanhao and Yao Tian, there were 9 people. 1 against 9, this was not fun. However, many people present believed that Wayward would still win. Lin Zhanhao and Yao Tian looked at each other, and finally their gazes fell on Yixian. At this time, only Yixian could fight against the Platinum Holy Light Dragon, Wayward. If he did not make a move, then this Holy Leader token would be Wayward's. Wayward, let's fight. Yixian summoned the Scarlet Flame Sword. Chapter 1641. Why didn't you call out that old man? Headstrong asked with some apprehension. It wouldn't be fair if I did. Yixian grinned. Ghost Dome Great Emperor was considered a heaven-reaching beast, while Wei Zhentian was a weapon. However, Old Tree was also considered a member of the Shifter race. If he was called out, wouldn't that be one more person? Headstrong looked at Yixian. When he thought about how Yixian didn't even take out the nether puppet, He heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, he wasn't confident in winning against Yixian alone. If both Old Tree and the Nether Puppet came out together, he might as well just admit defeat. Alright, since that's the case, then come at me. Headstrong shouted and transformed into his Platinum Holy Light Dragon. The Platinum Holy Light Dragon was considered a member of the Heavenly Dragon race, but it was more noble than any other Heavenly Dragon race member. After transforming into his true form, Headstrong's battle prowess skyrocketed. Unfortunately, he was nothing more than a sitting duck in Yixian's eyes. Don't forget, Yixian had already obtained the Dragon Slayer title, which doubled the damage he dealt to dragons. In addition, he had the Unicorn's Deterrence skill, which doubled the damage. In other words, Yixian's damage against Headstrong in his true form had tripled. On top of that, he had the Undying Doppelganger's amplification, the 1% amplification from the Elegy of Souls, the offensive power of the Ultimate Realm, and the fire offensive power of the Immortal Ichilan bloodline, and the Immortal Divine Phoenix bloodline. Hence, even before he started, he was already doomed to fail. When the surrounding people saw Yixian and Headstrong, they couldn't help but back away. They estimated that this battle would be very intense. Of course, this was only their estimation. Come! Headstrong roared again, then transformed into a streak of white light and swept towards Yixian's trio. Kill! At the same time, Yixian gave Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Might Awe the Heavens an order. The two of them charged forward, one on the left and one on the right. Nihility Flame Sword Ripple. Yixian also began to attack, sending one attack after another at Caprice. Haha, this kind of attack can't hurt me. He laughed willfully. Although Yixian's attack was strong, the Platinum Holy Light Dragon scales were no joke either. However, the power of the Void Flame Sword Ripple was not equal to the damage it dealt to the dragon's body. He willfully extended his Dragon Claw, preparing to destroy the Void Flame Sword Ripples. At the same time, he turned around, wanting to kill Wei Zhentian. He had learned about the Ghost Dome Great Emperor and Wei Zhentian's unlimited resurrection ability, so he did not hold back at all. However, he had miscalculated one thing. Bang! 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 A series of muffled sounds rang out. Wayward couldn't help but cry out in pain. He discovered that his Dragon Claw had actually been injured by Yixian's Nihility Flame Sword Ripple. How was this possible? Haha! The Nihility Flame Sword Ripple's damage against dragons is 3 times that of normal. Yixian sneered inwardly as he continued to attack. Wayward suffered a setback. His wound was so deep that his bones could be seen. Blood flowed freely. When he was in the Rebirth Realm, he could still use the mysterious life chi to heal his injuries. However, after entering the Imperishable Realm and obtaining the Imperishable Body, his injuries would be harder to heal. It was the same for the Ascension Realm. However, as a Platinum Holy Light Dragon, Wayward was able to heal his injuries in an instant. I don't believe that you can heal indefinitely. Yixian's eyes flickered as he rapidly retreated. At the same time, he continuously used the Void Flame Sword Ripple. Stinking brat, don't be so smug. Watch how I crush your kidneys. With a furious roar, the Ghost Dome Great Emperor lashed out with its tail, causing Wei Zhentian to explode. At the same time, its platinum scales suddenly emitted a white light. In an instant, the Ghost Dome Great Emperor was purified into ashes. Ding! Wei Zhentian died. Ding! Wei Zhentian revived. Ding! Ghost Dome Great Emperor died. Ding! Ghost Dome Great Emperor revived. In the blink of an eye, Wei Zhentian and the Ghost Dome Great Emperor appeared once again and charged over. Aye, this is too fake. You can revive indefinitely. Wayward couldn't help but roar in anger. Don't you have unlimited healing too? Yixian laughed. That's true. With your current attack, it's not enough to kill me. After saying that, Wayward suddenly accelerated towards Yixian. Since that's the case, let's do it for real. Yixian's eyes widened as he directly used the Deathly Hunt command to mark Wayward. This way, his attack would deal additional damage to Wayward. Ever since the Slaying God bloodline and the Sword God bloodline merged with the Immortal Slaying bloodline, the damage of the Deathly Hunt command had increased by 30%. Moreover, the power of the first strike of the Eye of Assassination had also increased by 50%. This strike was probably enough to break the balance between Wayward's damage and recovery. Whoosh! Wayward turned into a ray of white light and attacked. Wei Zhentian and the Ghost Dome Great Emperor couldn't catch up with him. However, just as his dragon claws were about to grab Yixian's figure suddenly flashed and appeared behind Wayward. Eye of Assassination / Bam! A void fire sword ripple directly slashed the back of the Platinum Holy Light Dragon. This time the power of the void fire sword ripple increased by a lot. It almost cut off half of the Platinum Holy Light Dragon's body. After feeling the pain, Wayward couldn't help but roar at the sky and say, "Damn it! I'm not fighting anymore." "You're not fighting anymore? So soon?" Yixian was slightly surprised. The battle hadn't even started for 2 seconds and Wayward had already admitted defeat. He hadn't even used all his trump cards yet. "Brat, you're already at the level of a rogue immortal. I'm not your match. I don't want the Holy Leader's writ." Wayward shook his head. After healing his injuries, he directly transformed into his human form. Just now Lin Zhanhao, the disciple of old immortal Tianju, and the #1 genius of the Penglai demon race, Yao Tian, couldn't last more than 3 seconds against Wayward. Now that Wayward had transformed into his true form, he couldn't last more than 3 seconds against Yixian. Yixian, isn't he a little too much of a freak? Alright, is there anyone else who wants to come out and try? Yixian suddenly turned his head and looked at the others. With his strength, he was strong enough to fight a group of people including Wayward. Who would dare to challenge him? Since there's no one else, this Holy Leader's writ is mine. Yixian grinned and summoned Luo Luo. Previously, he had used the Platinum Badge to communicate with Fairy Luli. He wanted to give this Holy Leader's writ to Luo Luo first. After Luo Luo passed the heavenly tribulation, he would give it to Fairy Luli. Fairy Luli didn't have any objections, and so did old immortal Tianju. Therefore they followed Yixian's plan. Luo Luo already knew the result, so when she appeared, she immediately used the hand seal she learned from the Dragon Sparrow Fairy, and hit the stone platform. Bam! The stone platform suddenly exploded. Chapter 1642. Even Yixian did not expect it. He had scanned the platform with his eye of revelation, but he did not find anything. Soon, a white token entered everyone's sight. As expected, the Holy Leader token was in the stone platform. The thing that blocked Yixian's eye of revelation was probably some kind of array, which was why Yixian did not notice it. It really is the Holy Leader token. I didn't expect it to be here. I tried to attack the stone platform but it was useless. I couldn't destroy it at all. So what if you guessed it? You can't break the array set up by the Dragon Sparrow Fairy. Everyone shook their heads. At this moment, Yixian had already rushed over and held the Holy Leader token in his hand. As long as he refined this Holy Leader token, he would become the leader of the Penglai Sacred Land. As long as he was in the Penglai Sacred Land, his strength would increase tremendously. Moreover, even if he broke through to become an itinerant immortal, he would still be able to fight in the Penglai Sacred Land. Ding! The host has obtained the Penglai Sacred Land's Holy Leader token. Do you want to refine it? A system notification sounded. Immediately, Yixian answered in his mind, yes. Although he would have to give the Holy Leader token to Luo Luo and Fairy Luli, he could wait until the time came. He would refine it first because he had a plan. Ding! The Holy Leader token has been successfully refined. The host is now the leader of the Penglai Sacred Land. The system notification sounded. Although Yixian did not feel the change in his strength, he would definitely be more powerful if he attacked. However, at this moment, whoosh! Suddenly, a crack appeared in the space beside Yixian. Then, a hand reached out and was about to snatch the Holy Leader token away. This scene happened so suddenly that everyone was caught off guard. Even Yixian did not expect it. Who could use the space-breaking technique in the secret land built by the Dragon Sparrow Fairy? After all, they had lost their space-breaking ability when they entered. Even Yixian, who had the Eye of Space, could not use it. Not only that, but even the Eye of Void could only be used once. But now, someone could actually break through the space-breaking technique. What was going on? You want to steal my Holy Leader token? No way! Yixian's eyes widened, and he gripped the Holy Leader medallion tightly with one hand. At the same time, he grabbed the Holy Leader medallion with the other hand, and then viciously dragged him away. Then a young man entered everyone's sight. This person's face was very unfamiliar to everyone, but his strength was not to be underestimated. Hua! Another spatial fissure tore open. This time the spatial fissure expanded all the way to Yixian's head, as though it was preparing to kill Yixian in one blow. However, Yixian had already cultivated the glazed treasure body to the 6th level, and he also had the space eye. Most importantly, he had already refined the Holy Leader's badge. When the spatial crack expanded to his skin, it suddenly recovered from the recoil. What? The young man was shocked. He thought that he would succeed this time, but he didn't expect that he would fail. Before he could react, the old tree threw out 9 lightning fire chains. 9 dragons' thunder chain lock. In an instant, the young man was trapped by the 9 dragons' thunder chain. The extremely strong power of lightning paralyzed him, and he couldn't move. Who are you? Yixian asked subconsciously. This young man had the ability to break through the space-breaking technique here. He was at least as strong as the successor of the Emperor of Death, Simple, and the Prince of Netherworld, Nether Limitless, or even stronger. One had to know that Fairy Luli didn't tell him that there was such an expert. After all, the experts from the Evil Path Holy Lands had entered under the watchful eyes of Fairy Luli and old immortal Tianju. The Space Eye, he's the descendant of time and space. Wayward suddenly thought of something and hurriedly shouted. Descendant of time and space? What's that? Yixian raised his eyebrows. However, he didn't care who the other party was and directly punched out. With the Holy Leader's badge in hand and having refined it, Yixian's attack power instantly skyrocketed. Bang! This punch was so fast that even Wayward couldn't react in time. By the time everyone came back to their senses, the young man's neck had already exploded, and his head had been separated from his body. The reason why Yixian didn't target his head was because he felt a familiar aura, and that was the Space Eye. Before the other party could react, Yixian quickly moved again and plucked both of the young man's eyes. He originally thought that the other party's eyes were the space eyes obtained from the heaven-reaching beast, but when he plucked them and devoured them, he found that this wasn't the case. One of the young man's eyes was the Space Eye, and the other was the Time Eye. Ding, the host has devoured in Space Eye. Ding, the host has devoured in Space Eye. Ding, the planting space has changed. The host can change the flow of time in the planting space by 10 times. Ding, the Space Eye and the Space Eye has been copied into the Eye catalog. There are currently 3 types. The Eye of Nature, the Eye of Death, the Space Eye, and the Time Eye. Ding! The system rewards the host with the evolution of his celestial eyes. A series of system notifications stunned Yixian. The Eye catalog was understandable, but what was with the flow of time in the planting space? Immediately, he checked the planting space and found that the flow speed in the planting space could be increased by 10 times or decreased by 10 times. If it was accelerated by 10 times, then the growth of the heaven and earth treasures would be accelerated by 10 times. If it was slowed down by 10 times, then 10 days in the planting space would be equivalent to 1 day in the outside world. Holy *T. Yixian was shocked beyond words. If it was slowed down by 10 times, then it would be 1/10 of its original speed. Cultivating in the planting space for 10 years was equivalent to only 1 year in the outside world. For the average person, this was better than any heaven and earth treasures. Most importantly, the flow of time in the planting space would change according to the level of the planting space. The planting space was currently at level 6. If it was upgraded to level 7, it might be 100 times faster. In the future, it might even be 1,000 times or even 10,000 times faster. 10,000 years in the planting space was equivalent to only 1 year in the outside world. Even an idiot could become a genius. However, the flow of time was only effective for cultivation. If someone was pregnant, 10 months in the outside world would be equivalent to 100 months in the planting space. Ha ha ha. Thank you for giving me such a good gift. Yixian laughed loudly as he looked at the Scion of Time and Space. The Scion of Time and Space had a good plan. He'd waited for Yixian to obtain the Holy Leader medallion before making his move. He hadn't expected Yixian to be able to refine the Holy Leader medallion in an instant, catching him off guard. Not only had his plan failed, but he'd also fallen into Yixian's hands. It was a complete failure.